what we're waiting for.
Transparency.
All right, we have a few items on your agenda and quite a few payment approvals.
Yes, quite a few.
Yeah. I mean,
Did we alert the treasurer?
Yeah. Some of them we already have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a public hearing today for the vacation request for JC Hope Road, which is a small portion of Anoka County right away on Little Mountain Road or off Little Mountain Road. Two consent agenda items. One is the notice to set a public hearing to consider testimony for the lowering the speed limits on Wing Road. And that one, the text on all the literature is correct, but the map shows a reduction from 50 to 45, but the request is from 50 to 40, and that's what the data shows. So.
Was that just the locals wanting it down because of the number of residences there?
Yeah, they asked us to look at it, and so we did, and that's what really makes sense to post it at.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few people going faster, but most people go about 40 miles an hour. And then we also have our final acceptance and release of retainage for the HVAC system that was installed in the exhibit hall up at the fairgrounds. We have payment approval for the guardrail repair. It's the first and last. We also have payment approval for grade works, and that's for Old Mountain Road. We have another payment approval for the striping to complete phase 1. We also have a payment approval with Lee Contractors for the front entry. And we also have one with Kirby Nagelhout for the building.
So Gordy, for the guardrail repair, is that we eat that, or are we charging insurance companies for some of that?
Yeah, if we can find out who did it, if there is a report, police report or sheriff's report, we'll use that to contact their insurance company and
And
go
does the
that route.
insurance company usually pay the full amount, or do they pay,
Depends.
try
Yeah.
to talk you down?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the guardrail's fault, so.
What
It's-
percentage? I'm sorry, Jake. Go ahead.
I just wanted to see how well is the guardrail's fault that they crashed?
Yeah, it's kind of hit and miss.
Yeah,
Hit and miss.
it's sometimes a percentage,
Okay,
like 80-20, 60-40. Depends on the insurance company
Yeah,
Guardrail was,
in the way.
and the way.
It
that's
dumped right
kind
out
of what
front.
guardrails are supposed
Yes.
to be for.
Yes.
I guess we could just remove them all and then it would not be a problem anymore. People could just sail off the road.
Yeah, it just depends on who the adjuster is and how experienced they are.
What percentage of our overall guardrail expenses actually get covered by insurance? Are we dealing 30%? The rest of them are hit and run? I mean, any idea?
I have to look at it. I mean, we try to get, if there's information, we go after it. And then whatever we get, we're happy to have gotten that.
I would think a lot of them hit and keep going.
Yeah, that's pretty typical. You know, if the vehicle's still there, a lot of times when you hit the ends, you don't drive away. But if you glance off of it, you can drive away.
Yeah.
You know, or your buddy didn't tow you away. You know, there's all kinds of things. So there's a lot of cases where there's just nobody there and there's no way we can go after it.
and we have our own snow plows that can do a lot of damage over the winter time too, right?
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, well, we actually do. I mean, if we do that, then it's a reported accident within our own organization. So, yeah, that gets addressed separately.
But like this amount,
You address
30,000 isn't for just one guardrail, because we're gonna go through and do multiple right at one time.
Yeah, we
And
collect them
so
all.
then,
Yeah.
so then there's a lag on when you tell the insurance company about it versus, or do you have like an expected amount and you tell them that much?
Yeah, that's what we do. So we'll go through and use our price from last year, the last time we did repairs, and we'll send that as an estimate to the insurance company that we're looking for this. And so we're doing that as we build up to a contract.
Right.
And
Okay.
so then when we actually do the contract, that's the actual price.
Perfect.
So,
Informative, see? We didn't-
yeah,
And if they have no insurance, do we go after them?
typically not. I mean, I don't know that, we haven't been successful doing anything like that.
I was
Yeah.
I say, if they don't have insurance, you're probably getting blood out of a turnip.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. No
Yeah.
questions.
Okay, let's see. Let's see, Old Mountain Road, there's a couple pictures in your packet at the back, so they're still working on subgrade. So at the front end, they finally hammered through the hard rock section, and so they're into the much easier digging and going. But basically, we've cleared everything, the right of way, and so we're just building subgrade, and we'll start building the road back. That's the goal. Let's see, grant funded edge line, and should start on the 26th. This is where the equipment burned up a few weeks back, and so that delayed their start. So that's the new date that they've given us. And signs and guideposts, that's on hold. Material delays have slowed the start of that project, but that'll be the fall. It'll be fine. It's not weather dependent. Darland, we made some changes to our contract and sent it back to WashDOT for their review. They have to approve this since it's Fed funded. On the design side, Courtney Road, we are done with everything, just waiting for the right time where people have slowed down a little and want to bid on work again. We have our bid opening today for the Roosevelt Grade Road paving project. So that'll be good. I think there's still 3 bidders signed up, and we're hoping to see submittals from all of them. Klickitat path, we haven't talked about that. So I handed out a vicinity map that kind of shows the limits of the trail. So just kind of some background. The DOT sidewalks on 142 are in terrible shape, just gonna say it. And there's,
Yeah, I wouldn't even call them sidewalks
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
much.
and
I think one lady's growing a garden in there. So, I mean, it's-
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, so there, and a lot of the sidewalks within the side streets are, they're not in great shape either. And so we've kind of looked at how do we, because basically there's no trunk to connect to. So we have a bunch of branches, all the side streets, but they don't connect to anything. And so our first goal, because if we have something to connect to, we can actually get grants for that, for redoing sidewalks. And so that's kind of been our goal, is what's the trunk, because the state has no real desire or plan to fix the sidewalks through Klickitat. So we talked to the Parks Department about paving the trail, which basically goes north-south through the town of Klickitat, and then connecting our side streets to that. So the Parks has a plan to pave the trail, and this allowed for us to kind of help that project out, as well as provide connectivity and sidewalk improvements for the town.
Does the state have a legal obligation to do the sidewalk? They just don't want to?
They would argue what kind of obligation they have. And we've been, so they had a
We've
paving,
argued this before, and
yes. So they have a paving project that paves the 142 through town. And they came out, it's been several years ago, and I met with them down in Klickitat, and I'm like, what are you gonna do for the sidewalks? And they're like, nothing. And I said, you guys would make us put in all new ADA ramps.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what the sidewalk looks like. You guys have to do that too. And they're like, well, we don't think so. And so we just kept telling them, yeah, they do. And I think they've recognized that, yes, they do. And so they're now looking at paving a portion of the trail to make that their replacement for the sidewalks, yeah. Because they know they have to.
they're doing something, but
Yes, yeah, yep. So anyway, just to make you aware, this is the project and it's for slated for next summer. And we did originally get a grant for it through WashDOT for this piece of it. But it's also involved parks, and we met several times, had several discussions, and we would have probably spent all of our grant money fighting about, I mean, just watching the two agencies fight about
Yeah.
what needed to be done. And so we just, it would have been cheaper for us just to do it, and that's what we're doing. So,
So all we're doing is this green section with the little red rings.
yeah, so the red pieces are the tie-ins to the existing roads. So we tied the school in,
Right.
the entrance to the
Community center.
school, the community center, all those things in our park by Carl's. All those things are tied to that paved path.
Yes.
So anyway, that just gives you a heads up on what we're up to with the path.
Can you tell me what the dollar amount of this is?
I think we're about 100.
Yeah, right around 100.
Yeah,
Is that grant money or our money?
that's our money. So our grant was 50,000, around 50,000 plus or minus.
But it added a lot of different elements that we can tie in, like the stair, like these red pieces that you see. With the grant, we would have had to revamp those to tie into it, which would have been considerably more expensive.
You were down there, did you have any conversations with the state about how that north end there is gonna tie across Durkee Road to what they plan on doing? Because I know they're planning on putting that trail across, the bottom section of the mill.
We've had just initial discussions with them, and so this year we'll get deep into all those other
Okay.
connections and ideas that they have. Yeah, because they have like a trailhead plan somewhere.
They have all sorts of plans.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Maintenance side, a lot of our east side and all of our west side guys are seal coating this week and probably into next week. And that should finish us out if all the equipment stays working as it should. East End Crews is doing some work up at the Potts Lane building. There's basically was no rock in the back, and so gets pretty soft in the winter time and spring. So some of our crew is out there doing that work. Trying to do some grading. I still have the Cedar Valley stuff on there. That's not true. Sorry. And chip sealing. So anyway, that's pretty much what the maintenance guys are doing. So BZ Glenwood Highway, Trout Lake Highway, and other roads in that area. On the facility side, our building, they've started tearing up the alley like they said they were, and still working on Court Street. They started flooring in storage areas and electrical rooms that aren't really being trafficked. And this is the vinyl type flooring anyway, so it's pretty resilient. Let's see, they started installing the solid surface countertops in the entries and all those, and I think the cabinets will follow not too far behind. So they'll start installing that as well. Drywall, they're still sheet rocking and taping in the stairway, and on the third floor, there's still a few places, and the painter's kind of trying to keep up with them, and I think they're kind of jumping around a lot now. Electricians are really working hard. They actually worked on Saturday trying to catch up. I think Dan saw the amount of Cat 6 cable for the first floor. Looks like it should be for the whole building. But,
I'm not running it.
yeah, there's miles of cable in there for communications and data. It's amazing. Mechanical sub, they're still working on the third floor to complete the connections for the equipment and the piping, and I think redoing some of the piping because it extends below the ceiling line in a few places, or the drop ceiling. So they're going back and fixing those areas. The elevator's being assembled, and they started that last week. So going in. But they still don't have power. They're trying to get connection to the PUD. They had the electrical inspector over there yesterday, I think, to try and get things approved in the electrical room, the main one on the first floor, and so they can make that connection. And nothing really new on expenditures. I went over those last week. And schedule's the same. We're not talking about delaying anything, so that's good news too. Let's see, city's considering our request to vacate, and that should be on the council's agenda probably within a month, is what they told me. So they're getting all their paperwork together, and their public works committee approved what we asked for. Courthouse entries, I don't know if you want to go over that.
Yeah, we're installing the guardrail on the east entrance, and then they'll be placing stucco also. We're hoping to be done by the end of this week, so then we can actually open that entrance. And the south jail side will be opened today or tomorrow. And then we'll start on the north side fabricating handrail and finishing that. So we're moving along. They're moving right along.
When is that parking out there in front of the jail, Sheriff, kind of open back up?
When we pull that, hopefully it'll open up tomorrow. When we pull back that fence, then we'll take a little bit of it when we move further out to the west to do the stairs, but that big piece will be open back up.
Perfect.
Okay, met last week with the fair board. A few members of the fair board talk about, what fair is going to look like, and I think there's still some uncertainty. So I think we're planning for a full fair and all the things we normally do, and then however they want to use the facility for whatever fair looks like, we'll be ready. So we're not trying to scramble at the last minute. We'll just make it ready like we usually do, and go from there. And so there's another meeting tonight. So we have a lot of questions, unanswered questions that we have. And so tonight's another meeting that they're having at 6 and so 7. So I'll attend that, and we'll see if we can get more information.
Just an update from my seatmates. I talked to Ron at Community Days, and he said that for the most part, they're planning full fair except for no kickoff dinner.
Oh.
And they may not allow people in the livestock park. Other than that, everything's as normal. So we'll see where they change from there, but that's where their latest thinking.
Radio.
State has passed. We've entered the right-of-way negotiation phase for the lease. Sent over this, going back and forth with Lauren, going to have their right of entry done so he can take it to his board tomorrow morning, get signed, so then we can start doing the archaeological and some of our studies and nail down, because we kind of reduced the footprint to 5 acres, and we're giving them our cost estimate, because he asked if we pay for an appraisal. I said, well, why don't we do a cost? You use the cost. Let's take a look at our cost estimate first. What we propose to WPT
So you said lease, or are we gonna buy it?
lease. But they're looking at fair market value for the lease. So they're, they essentially, this is the price of the land. This is what we have tied up. And we would like some sort of a lease payment.
Why don't we buy it for what they bought it for per acre?
Well, we talked about that, but he said you can't buy it. Their grant won't allow for that. But we'll talk more into details when we get further into the situation. We just kind of
you
started.
Remind him, we did him a favor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to be paying more for it than I could have did it my way.
No, I've already had that conversation. Yes. Even if it's $1,000 a year for 100 years.
Yeah.
That's more than what we would have paid for it had we bought it outright. Especially if we could have just bought 5 acres.
Right.
But if we would have had 20 acres for $100,000.
Is there a way to do it where we can agree to allow them to put some communication equipment or something on there if they may want at some point, and use that as a fair exchange?
Yes, we'll definitely look at those avenues. Definitely look at a bunch of different avenues, like we did with Klickitat. I mean, essentially, we don't pay anything at Klickitat. We gave them a generator, or we bought a generator big enough to hook up to, that was our contribution, and that's a 100-year lease. And I told
Something about like that would be just fine.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I told Lauren. We definitely want at least 100 years. Yeah. Even if it goes away, at least, or I mean, if technology changes, at least we're not back renegotiating.
Right.
Mhm.
When, now that we're actually, I mean, this has been a long time even getting to this point. When are we thinking we'll actually have a site there and be rolling?
We'll start on the 1st of August is the idea, to get our archaeologist up there. But I'll be honest, the part that's the toughest is the FCC license. And I don't have any control over that. I can push everybody else, but I can't push the feds. And they can be 6 months, 6 to 9 months to give you the license.
So we could be a year before.
We're probably a year, yes.
Do
I
we need
would
a
say.
license to build the tower though? I mean, we just need the license for the actual.
We need the license for the radio system to
for the
connect.
equipment, to
Yes,
turn it on, but we could put it there and stick it and install it.
yes, you can do that, correct.
Of course, the danger would be
They give you
they,
a license and you have to
Yeah.
and
move
then
it.
they're like, nope, we're a hard no. And
Or they change the frequency,
Yeah.
and then you have to change equipment. But there's ways to kind of fast track it, yes.
I was gonna say, because I know people have been getting point-to-point FCC licenses in, the gigahertz range, and it takes them 2 days and on phone call. Like,
Ours is a little different because for the site, they have to notify all the tribes, and the tribes have to respond.
um,
So you've got, I think there's 4, Nez Perce being one, and they have to respond back to the FCC. So that's part of the holdup
Does
too.
the tribe have a tower up there to the east?
I think they do. The Yakimas usually respond fairly reasonable. Sometimes the Nez Perce take a little while. And they also can actually ask for payment. We didn't go through this at Red Tails. We didn't do Red Tail. But they can actually ask for payment for review, and the FCC will grant them that.
oh,
And we have no say. It has the reasonability thing, but a lot of times you're fighting. I mean, they could say we want $10,000 to review it. We could say no,
And you
and
wait longer.
then we wait a lot longer. I mean, I'm just throwing those numbers out. I'm not saying.
So what's the thought is, just because it's a federal agency, they have to consult.
So it doesn't impact,
How do radio frequencies impact a treaty right?
I don't know. The tower may
I mean,
be
certainly the tower side.
our site, but the
Would that
radio,
get picked up in the archaeological and the cultural work that would be done there? Absolutely. I mean, I can see
and that's
that.
that's the big part they look at, but they also look at the frequencies and all that to make sure it doesn't.
I just can't, but okay. I mean,
But it's a
Smile and
majority of
I
it
know,
is the
smile and nod,
site.
okay.
The majority of it is the site, but because we have to do 106 because it is all fed.
Okay. We do what we have to do.
So our consultant's saying, plan for a year. I said, can we do it quicker? I want to do it quicker.
So should we
What was that
include the,
timeline on?
Yeah.
should we include the actual project in the capital plan for 2022?
I'm gonna go with yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we will
We
break
can
that
always
forward.
put it, and then if we don't actually break ground,
Yeah,
then it just gets rolled into the next year.
yeah.
And again, actually, it's probably been on the capital.
It's been there for a while.
Okay.
I don't disagree.
Okay, Middle Road. The contractor that works for the solar farm, Lund Hill, they actually graded Middle Road last week. They didn't have the mag chloride. So material shortages, they didn't get any, can't get any until hopefully this Friday. So that work will happen next week. but the road did get graded. But it's pretty dry and bony material, so it'll washboard,
Pretty within,
pretty quick.
within a couple of days.
So they can't find any mag seal anywhere.
No,
Wow.
yeah, not until next week or this week, the end of this week.
Oh, okay.
So they were gonna do it last Wednesday,
Are they gonna grade it again before they
they'll have to grade it and mix it,
put it
yeah.
down?
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
once
the kicker was to get it before harvest. So that's probably the way they graded this week is because they were getting a little pressure out there to get it done before harvest.
Well, I told them if you don't, I don't care, whatever, if you don't get your material, don't get your flaggers, you need to grade the road last week, and they did, so.
Good.
Yeah. Courtney Road, the PUD project and Fred Haney. We had a meeting set up with the PUD and Bryce came back and said, well, I've been getting a lot of pressure from the fire districts and the PUD, and I'm expect or anticipate that the permit will be issued in 2 weeks. And so the PUD canceled and said, well, if we get the permit, there's no need to have a meeting. And
That's
so,
part of the pressure.
yes, I know.
They should know that.
Yeah, so we'll give them 2 weeks. We know how the 2-week number from the Gorge Commission
Right,
works.
that's not,
6
that's 2 week of Gourd Commission time, which is not,
Real time.
that's not 14 rotations of the planet. It's,
A few more,
yeah, could be.
typically, yeah.
I have
So-
spoken with couple, 3 times with the executive director, and she's certainly aware of the project and the urgency and the support and the,
Good,
so
yeah.
I think.
So 2
And,
weeks.
and as I understand from talking to both PD and Mr. Haney, that the commission staff is being very attentive.
Well, that's great.
Good, thank you.
So we need to apparently hire Mr. Haney as a consultant for our next project, because he's,
Knows what to say.
Yeah.
well,
Pretty
or
persistent.
he's very
Yeah.
persistent. I can show you my phone records to show how persistent on every communication device short of carrier pigeon. Yes.
Well, that's good. We'll
Yeah.
see in 2 weeks what happens.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do the last one before you get started,
Okay.
because it'll be quick. So we're looking at talking about a price for
Yeah, I don't like that
removing the
number.
last, yeah. So the issue with that one is this is the building that people have come in and stole the structural steel pieces. So it's partially collapsed
yes.
and the roofing is asbestos. So now it makes it really tough to get the roofing off without, flattening the building basically, and then going back and picking through it. So there's, it's a little harder to do.
Yeah, this is, worst case, you have to bring in a contractor to abate the whole building. And that's kind of where you are. I mean, maybe we can help, I don't know. We'll see when we get it on the ground.
If there,
Controlled fire burn in the fall.
I wish, I wish.
yeah,
Good.
you abate it.
Yeah, if you abate it, but the problem is that the whole, because, if it was a good structural, somebody could get up on the roof, but now you have to drop the whole building, and then when you do, it's just gonna go poof. And then the stuff will be, not that it's ever gonna be a health safety issue to anybody, but still the way the laws are, now it's a confined site, they'll have to bring in, the team, and it gets to be a lot bigger deal.
So these are those, a consequence of people, they stole all the
Yes,
structural members out of to sell for scrap or whatever they did with
yeah,
it. And now it's gonna cost the taxpayers
bunch of money.
a pile of money, and they probably, who knows, the cost of what they got out of what they stole was
Not
nothing.
this.
No, not this. If they wouldn't have done that, you could have got up with lifts, taken it off,
Taking it off.
And then-
And then
then we would have tore the building down,
Right.
or we could have burned the building.
we could have burned it down.
Yeah.
Now, since it's unsafe to get on the roof, we're stuck holding the bag.
Mhm.
Yep.
We'll do everything we can to keep it under that, but Okay, I'll get into the Dallasport sewer. We haven't talked about this much. Boy, we're running out of time. too.
You're okay.
Okay.
The auditor's okay.
It's fine.
We have lots of,
Okay.
because we had a.
It's fine.
Okay, I'll make it quick. I just want to bring everybody up to speed on where we were, kind of give some background history for the people that don't know about the Dallasport wastewater treatment and collection system. The plant was constructed 2002, 2003, brought online in 2003. We started looking at a study after the Murdoch sewer system feasibility study was done. It was done with a grant from Department of Commerce to potentially provide sewer system in Murdoch. There's a we got a grant to do the water system prior to that, and the problem was now the sewer system. So we did a feasibility, and the thing the check for the system or the study is it better to build a standalone system in Murdoch, or is it better to hook the Dallasport, the existing system? It makes more sense to hook the Dallasport system. With that and some orthophosphate, which I'll do at the end of this video, will kind of bring you up to speed on that. We hired RH2. Decision was made to update our sewer plan, and it needed to be updated anyway. It hadn't been updated in quite some time. So the part of that updating was to review the current system and how it relates to Murdoch and the expansion of the system. It was also to evaluate the flows and project future flows through development. Because again, our area is smaller and we could expand our area, so we wanted to analyze that. We also wanted to analyze minimum requirements mandated by DOE, which that again goes back to our orthophosphates. We also wanted to determine the condition of the existing wastewater lift stations. They haven't been looked at since they were actually in detail since they were constructed back in 2002 and brought online. And then look at deficiencies and get a schedule of projects and a cost, and also look at rates. Because at the present time, the system works for actual operations. We collect enough for the operations. We also need to look at future connection fees for future projects. It's something you typically do with a system every 20 years or so. So with that, I'll give you a quick what our system is for those of you. The system consists of 4 lift stations, almost 9 miles of gravity lines, and 4.3 miles of force main. The system serves at this present time about 1,000, a little over 1,000 population. It has a service area of this whole area here in the green dotted line is about almost 2,400 acres. We have currently 471 connections, and we have a maximum flow rate now of 1.3 million gallons, or 0.3, which means 130 gallons a day. And we're permitted for 400,000 gallons a day. So actually, we're using 1/3 of our capacity.
Right. So we have 2/3 unutilized.
And that's permitted.
Right, permitted.
We could actually probably get more out of that. And so part of the idea of the study is to look at Murdoch, the potential to bring Murdoch on, which actually helps the system as opposed to hurting it.
How much would that bring us up into consider the percentage of the capacity?
It still adds, I think, an additional 10%, and that's it. So
It doesn't burn much of the,
yeah.
I mean, it burns some, but
It doesn't burn a lot of the water, but it burns a lot of the inflow that we need. For the system to actually work, for the bugs and all. I won't get into all the
So
chemicals.
if we bring on another 300 to 500 homes down in Dallasport, would that push it up? We're using 60% or so of the capacity, and then we've got the business park.
Yeah, full build out. We've looked at it. We can get it up to 70% if we bring in everything and you get the whole build out of what we have. And we'll cover that more in detail when the time comes, but to tell you where we are with the plan, they have submitted to the group the first 9 chapters, which is what their contract requires. We're reviewing them with the project list. When we get something we're happy with, we'll bring it to you guys, and then they submit it to DOE, is how it works. With that said, it comes time for their second phase of their contract, and we're sitting at about $20,000 that they'll need to finish, and it'll probably be, I hate to use it, probably another year, just about. I'm going to look at doing it through the end of April. Again, that's DOE, which could take up to 6 months for them to review and approve our plan, which will allow for a permit that gets further up in our capacity, and potentially, if the board is agreeable, expands our service area. Right now, we cannot provide service outside of the area we have here today without the plan and showing how we're going to be able to service that, how it's not detrimental to the capacity of the facility.
So if we bring on that area, but we only have an 8-inch line going up there, are we gonna have to increase the size of the line going all the way through there too?
That area includes another lift station.
Okay.
So again, the idea is to finish the study. If everybody's agreeable to that, keep moving forward, and then pursue grants to try to pay for some of that portion of it.
Pay for the infrastructure of the study.
The infrastructure to bring Murdoch online. And because a lot of that, it gets very costly for the amount of people you have to build a lift station. And Department of Commerce and other entities are well aware of that.
We were very successful on the water system.
Yes.
For that reason. That whole system ended up very affordable to the ratepayers and ultimately us, even though it's not our system, we're always the pocket of last resort.
Exactly.
Last or first?
Or first and last, actually. First dollar in and usually the last dollar out too, in too.
And for the finances, I also included those.
I saw that.
These are the 2 loans that we have, or had, I should say.
Now we're down to 1.
We're down to 1 because we paid the big one off,
Yeah.
which was a payment of $484,000 a year. We made that last payment this year in June. So that is paid off. That was the Public Works Trust Fund loan. Now we also have the state revolving fund loan, which is a 0 interest. We owe $117,000 essentially. We'll make one payment, another payment this year, but of that 117, I guess the good news is 58,000 of that has already been allocated, been set aside. We're required to do that. So the only new dollars is the 58,000, but it will also be paid off if we follow the schedule. March of 2023 is our last $29,000 payment. And then the system and everything is paid off unless somebody chooses to pay it off early, but it is 0% interest. So.
You gonna mention rates?
Yes, we will. We are going to look at the rates. I'm not going to, and that'll be part of that. That'll be brought forward because there'll be a list, a project list, and we will also bring forward our recommendation for rates.
So initially, when the plant was formed and built, they looked at a lot of different things. What do you base the rates on? Just operations, future maintenance, large capital improvements, and which makes the rates, low or high. There's a big range there. So there's a whole old study, and that's what we're kind of going through as well. But ultimately, you have to decide, do the people receiving the service need to pay for the plant improvements and heavy maintenance? I mean, that's a decision that goes into the rates, but right now it just funds operations. So
What are our upcoming expenses with improvements, upgrades? What are we looking at near future?
Selling it?
Well,
I haven't,
I'm just trying to put the icing on that cake for myself.
well, I didn't bring the study because I didn't want to get into it because I want to make sure that we go back and forth with the consultant and say for sure that we feel confident that, okay, we need to rebuild or need to look at one or two of our lift stations. Those are the big ticket items of the lift stations. And when one of those starts going down, those motors are very expensive and everything in them. So a new lift station's right between 1.5 and 1.8.
All right, good enough.
yeah.
But I will have,
Hey, guys.
I will
Smokes.
have,
You could hire a crew of people to lift things in perpetuity.
With buckets?
Good Lord.
but there'll be, there'll be a lot of decisions when we bring it forward and we'll
That
be
was an
asking
order of
for some
magnitude
time.
larger than I
Because then
expected.
you guys get to decide. Right now,
Hopefully it's sold by the time you make that presentation. as far as
well, that might be the other situation, but you also get to decide, do you want to continue paying for grinder pumps and that kind of thing? Or do you want to put that off on the rate, the owners? Because ultimately, if somebody plugs their grinder pump right now, we buy them a new one. A lot of places don't do that. They won't.
We can't afford to subsidize everything anymore in this county.
Right. So we'll review it, we'll bring it forward. We're hoping to have our first review the first week of August. So maybe in September sometime, we can
We'll have a
actually,
workshop.
we'll have a workshop and discuss the whole thing in detail.
Okay.
And I'll turn it over to little Gordy can kind of maybe give you the history of the orthophosphate.
Or we can talk about it at another time. I know we exceeded our time.
I'll defer to the, because if the auditor's okay with Grant, go ahead then.
Okay, just kind of briefly, it's probably been 6 years ago, plus or minus. The PUD indicated that we were exceeding one permit level for orthophosphate discharge from the plant. So our plant discharges to really fractured rock. So it's a ground discharge, that's how we're permitted, but it has really direct connectivity with the river. So as the river rises and falls, so does the level, in our discharge pipe. So we're connected, but not directly. And so the limits for orthophosphate, there are none for direct discharge. If you're ground discharge, they set limits, but they were set at this plant arbitrarily. And so we've been trying to work with DOE to say, hey, really we're directly connected to the river. There shouldn't be a limit set on orthophosphate. So we can make improvements to the plant to limit that, but we're trying to just get our permit changed. That's really what we've been trying to do for about 6 years. But we meet with DOE, explain the situation, and either we get a change in staff there and no decision is made, but no one really seems to, at their end, be pushing for a solution.
Do you know who, and I don't know if that's, the regional director or office of Columbia River is Tom Tebb, had been elevated that position a couple of years, no, maybe 5 years ago. And he was the regional, he worked on the earlier in his career for the new sewer plant they built in Klickitat. In fact, he was there for the ribbon cutting. And so he's very familiar with the area. And I'm wondering if maybe what we need to do is just go up the food chain a little bit further, because I think he could probably just fix it.
Okay.
Because he's really familiar with the area. He helped. I think he was part of probably this plant. He was probably this the timing would be about right. He probably was engaged with stuff when the plant was being built,
Okay,
because he would have been like the local works person back 20 years ago.
okay,
So maybe we can, maybe we can just
Push it
reach
up.
out to him,
okay, sounds good.
or maybe Commissioner Anderson can just have a discussion with him next time he's at the Columbia River meeting, PAG meeting, and just take him aside and have a little discussion,
Sure,
just to see.
yeah, I'll see if I can get a summary of what we've done and
That would be
what
great.
our
Sometimes a
solution is.
5-minute conversation is all it's needed.
Okay.
I might be having a conversation with them sometime too, so I could just hop in on that.
Hop in on that. So if
Yeah.
we got a problem. Because it's silly to me that we're, because that's one of the things that we would have to spend a bunch of money on capital for something that we absolutely don't need.
Yeah,
When we have lots of things that we actually need,
yes,
that we would spend capital dollars on, and it's unnecessary. Okay. Any other things? How do we, just one quick, if I can, the GIS mapping, I had a question from somebody that had noticed, because we go through once in a while and update those, and they had noticed their line, and it says right on our site, these lines are not, this is just, but they had an earlier screenshot. I mean, we had moved it significantly, and they were just having an argument with somebody else, and somebody else was trying to use that as evidence, and it's like, it says right on there, there isn't any, it means nothing.
No, you gotta pay a survey for that.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
surveyor.
Or it should have the survey link to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we just snap those lines? Is that planning? It's in our GIS system, so I'm assuming.
I think Kim built a lot of those.
she builds a
Yeah.
lot.
And then I don't know if the assessor's doing some of them now or Kim's still
I
doing
think
them.
Kim's still doing it.
Okay. Well, maybe I should just have a conversation with Kim, and I can give her the parcel, and she can look at it, because it could be just, it was an oversight, because it did look like it was pretty significant that we had moved it, and it's obviously not right.
Yeah,
Things could have changed, and maybe it didn't reset, because they changed the map to 2019.
Wow.
So the map is
Oh,
different.
that is about when that's probably.
The
what
base
happened.
layer
The
we-
base layer
is
probably-
now the 2019 map, so maybe something happened in that transition.
Okay.
And, I could, if you want to talk to Kim, or I could tell Kim,
we can.
and she can look it up.
Okay.
If you happen to know the parcel, or at least the area.
Yeah, that's typical, but
If you know the parcel or the
yeah,
area.
yeah,
you
I can give her the parcel number
Okay.
and they can look at it, so, or I can give it to you.
You get, and I can have her look at
Okay.
it,
Great, that's,
because sometimes they have to reset stuff.
okay. Nothing else? Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I see you got this line back up on the highway there for the new parking.
Oh, yeah,
That was a nightmare there for a while. Somebody pulled it up.
it happens
Yeah,
frequently, more frequently than you'd like.
yeah, it was bad.
Morning.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Morning.
Good morning.
Sorry about that. Be fine. I'm pretty wordy all the time.
Real long. Yeah, I know, you're always so wordy and.
I was gonna say, this isn't very long. We have like 45 minutes, so.
Yeah,
just
so
speak
fill it.
slowly.
We
Stretch
can
it
talk
out.
Really slow,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I have plenty of ad lib I can add to
Okay,
it.
good.
So, elections, of course, we're in the middle of an election and we're getting our ballots picked up 3 times a week. Have a new employee, because Leah transferred. So she's in training. She's not going to get her signature training until after the primary's over, obviously, because she just started last Friday. So,
Caitlin used to work in there, didn't she?
in licensing,
She came home.
Where did she go?
public health. Yeah, and so Heather and I are going to backfill for signature verification.
Public health could say she left Hope.
She got her cross training for sure.
She got it, she did for cross.
She said it
training.
was a
She's
good
fine.
move. She found out where she wanted to be for the rest of her time here. So let's hope she keeps that attitude. That she likes elections. That she knows how to do a lot of other things in the office as well. So, yeah, so election is August 3rd, and so we'll be done with that, and then we'll have our certification meeting within 10 days, I think it is. Finance, Christina decided she did not like being in the back room. She was a front office person with lots of people, so she found a job in the Dallas she wanted, so she left, and so we had transferred in there. She's also in training, and she's doing great. A little overwhelming on some things because you've got your timelines and it's like all these things coming at you at once. So, but she's doing great. Both of them are. So that's what's going on in AP. We're going forward with the audit. We've had a lot of discussions. It's been remote so far. I forgot something.
No,
Okay.
I forgot something.
Okay. Hear the pen over there. We've had many phone calls with the different auditors, trying to get them all the information they need. They have a lot of questions regarding the coronavirus grant and the accountability. One thing that I was puzzled about, that's a nice term for what I first said, is that they decided they went in and did a review of one of the small public works grants, and they've added seniors onto it. And originally for the dollar threshold, they were just going to do the coronavirus grant. So, so far we're doing okay. So I was like, one wasn't enough. That's however many $1 million, but anyway. So we're doing okay, but there's a lot of questions. And I did not get Google Sheets done last week and have it out on Friday like I had promised, because the Klickitat issue, and I'm working on that this week. So my goal is by close of day on the 23rd. So, yeah, I feel bad about that, but it is what it is. I can't get it done, especially when it's new to me, in 1 or 2 days. So, licensing surely
Is Klickitat kind of working now?
enough that we can do it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'll say.
Okay.
It's special.
We're testing out all those patches this week.
Okay.
Yeah. However
Talk
many.
too loud, it might not.
I know. Well, I figured if I came and the top
Positive
floor of the
thoughts.
building was not a smoldering crater, it was at least kind of operating.
That would have been the Public Works building. That's where the admin is. Yeah, just positive thoughts. So we've been short for the last, from the 1st to the
Might
19th.
hear us.
Shirley was on vacation because she accrues quite a bit, so she's getting it used up, so you don't get hit at the end of the year with use it or lose it. We've had the inventory issues. It's been on my little thing I've talked to you about with the state for quite a while. They're getting better. I don't know what they're doing at between the state and Walla Walla, but things are getting better for inventory availability. And then the state rolled out a software update for both drivers and vehicles over the 4th of July, which brought a lot of questions to the office, why they couldn't access their, renew their vehicles online and so forth, and to my house and to my cell phone and, all this. I can't renew. Bring your renewal to me. I'll bring it home to you. Seriously, it was crazy. So and then when we came back in on the 16th, or not the 16th, the next day, 9th, or not, what day, 6th, the 6th, yeah. All the things that we needed were there, but they were in different places. So yeah, it was great. And some of the things didn't work, and the functionality was kind of all over the board. So I keep getting emails and I forward them out to the staff. Well, this problem has been resolved, and this one you have a workaround, and it's like, so this has been fun. Over a holiday weekend, I just thought that was great. Whatever. So we're getting by. Recording, the fees will go up by our legislatively mandated increase of $100 starting on the 26th, which is next Monday. I don't know where July has gone, honestly. It's gone. And we had short staffing on and off for a couple weeks since the first, since July 1st, but we're back up and running, I think.
Maybe he has something to record. So.
Anybody that's got
Get it in.
recording to do
I
better
do.
get it
I
done
have
this
something.
week.
I'm gonna do it this week. I'll bring it Thursday.
Yeah, so, and the recordings are just, they're phenomenal. I mean, they're huge amounts compared to last year at this time, so.
I'm hearing a lot of noisy customers out there already. I'm like, hey, it wasn't us. We didn't
No.
do it.
And I'm sure it wasn't our local legislators that voted for it, but maybe, I can't say for sure, but I would imagine not. VSO, he's busy, but he's on a well-earned and deserved vacation through August 2nd. He'll be back in the office on the 3rd. So, any other questions?
Didn't talk near slow enough.
Sorry. That's not been my best, it's not one of my better qualities is talking slow. Usually I have to be told to slow up.
Or being verbose.
I have an elections question that might kill some time. So nothing goes on the primary ballot unless there's 3 people running for that seat.
So
right?
far as positions, yes.
Right.
And then any, of course, your measures or any, like if you have an annexation or a bond or a levy or something like that, propositions.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah, you have, for the primary, there has to be 3 or more candidates for the same position.
And for a write-in to get to the general, they have to just have the second highest tallied vote total, or is there a minimum threshold?
I don't have that. They change those rules frequently, but I think that's correct, what you're saying. I would have to look at it and get back to you. Because, yeah, they have to meet a certain percentage of the total number of votes cast for that position, but I can't tell you the percentage.
But it's a small number, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
It's pretty small.
It was pretty small, but yeah, they have to meet a threshold for that, the number of votes cast or whatever in that position. Yeah, for that, yeah.
Okay, good enough.
So, yeah, anything?
What'd you forget to, and you wrote on your little pad there?
I have to make a change to our calendar.
Oh, yeah,
Keep telling her I'll do it and then I forget.
yeah, it's okay. I forgot something too today and I fixed it. So, yeah, we're gonna set up another interview. We had someone we thought that we were gonna hire for the accountant position and turned us down, so.
But you got another.
Oh, they turned us down,
Mhm.
turned you down.
Mhm.
Tell me about your
Us
past,
down. The county did.
past people
I really tried
that
golden.
have applied and don't take it or whatever. Is it housing related? Is it daycare related? Is it Goldendale related? Is it,
The last on this one.
they just drove around and decided this is not their community?
The wife wasn't particularly impressed.
They didn't actually have to live it.
We tried to tell them that.
It's
We have
still
lots of
community.
employees that don't
Commute.
live, that commute.
VA lost one recently for housing reasons. Couldn't find housing.
Yeah. So, yeah, this one was the schools, concerned about the schools and the small community and anyway, I don't want to go too much into it right now.
Okay.
But yeah, so we did have someone else apply that I plan on interviewing. And I will say none of them are from Prothman. One was through Washington Finance Officers and the other one is Oregon Finance Officers. So,
So the $4,500 in there isn't doing us a whole lot? is it?
not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
I'm not saying no. I'm hopeful.
Okay.
So I guess that's
I guess
it.
we're.
Early lunch.
Or we can do board pending or board updates. Okay, anybody wants to share, if we have a little time, it's shareable.
What do you look at me and say that?
Greg's here.
Oh, yeah,
Just listening.
yeah.
You've always got something.
No?
Through my meetings from last week is what I.
Did you notice all the traffic parked on where they shouldn't have been parked on Old Highway when you turn off of 14?
No, were they in the no
But
parking?
it was horrible. Somebody took down the sign on the south side, on the southwest side, and they were parked all the way up. And it was on, what day was it?
Yeah, say when was that?
I don't know, but Nissa came up through there. I figured I'm just gonna tell Gordy. I thought about calling
Yeah.
one of the deputies.
So they took down
They
the,
took down
the
on
no
that,
parking.
and then they were.
well, that's
parked-
one way of doing it. Oh, we'll just make it not a no parking.
Right,
zone.
and
We'll
so
just take
then.
the sign down.
So then when, I know Nissa called the sheriff's, the 911 and their dispatch center and told them about it, because, well, Leroy told me that. And we went down a few days later and I noticed that the sign was back up, I think we attached it right to the corner sign or whatever, that's up higher. And, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how on a weekday a logging truck would have gone through there, because then the ones that were on the south side that shouldn't have been there were cars parked on the north side as well. And you come through with a loaded log truck, how are you gonna make that corner?
Well, that's why they can't, that's because that's how it was until we put the signs up, and then they
But
policed
when
it.
you
It's
just
been
take them
good.
down,
You just take them down.
kind of like Otter Beach, right?
Yeah. You take 'em down, that's right. We
Yeah.
buy by the grows. but-
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, you didn't
Oh,
notice
yeah,
that?
because every time I went through, I was like, oh, good, everybody's following the rules, it's good. So
Yeah.
I missed it, I must have missed it on the day when it was really.
I can't remember what day it was. I think it was last Thursday, Friday, somewhere in there. But yeah, they were up again, so that's good.
Okay,
Yeah. For a while
well, they
anyway.
just need to write tickets.
Well, I have a couple phone
Revenue
numbers.
source.
Yeah.
I have a couple phone
There you
numbers
go.
in my phone. I really thought about calling them, but I didn't know if they were on duty.
Well, even,
I
I think they
compliment-
keep their ticket books with them. So-
Oh, well, that would be good. Maybe I will then. But yeah, it was ridiculous. I went through there with our, 3/4.
Well, I bet it was, because we were sitting outside and there were kiteboarders had come all the way down around Memaloose. And I thought,
Wow.
why, we'd never see that, because that's a jaunt for one thing, and that's usually the sail, and that's what it was. It was so crowded that they just sailed down river to get away from the crowds, and they were sailing back and forth
Wow.
around
And
Saw Beach.
I didn't even look at the water. I was too busy making sure I watched the
Wasn't
road
hitting,
so that I
right.
didn't hit a body or a car or
Yeah,
a
I think
truck, van.
that was Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, it was somewhere in there. Leroy said, man, Nissa was upset. She called it in. I said, well, good for
Well,
her.
good for her, good citizen.
Yeah, anyway. So I just told Gordy, I noticed the sign was up and he's thinking we ran a switch. Oh, well, that's okay. I don't care. She doesn't care. So,
All right,
thank
thank
you.
you, ladies.
Yep.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Yep. That worked.
All right, anybody have anything they want to update from last week?
I would say that we're talking about childcare later,
Yeah.
but we should, we gotta get in front of childcare and housing. As far as I'm concerned. It's like the PA lose one because of housing, because there's, 5 places to buy in the entire area.
Right.
In talking with the hospital and whatnot, and Rob and other businesses, the hospital facilitates housing. They actually work with some of the better landowners out there, or renters, to keep a pulse of what's available in the area, so that they can help facilitate a new hires, at least temporary housing, until they can find permanent housing. And I really think we're gonna have to do something. Because of, like that scenario, they've been looking for an attorney for how long, and finally get one, and now all of a sudden don't get one.
Can't get one because there's no place. to live.
So, and the hospital is even at sometimes, paid a couple months worth of rent.
Just to
Secure that,
Right.
and for those bigger positions, I don't know.
We might wanna-
We're gonna have to step forward and do something, whether we're running it through HR or something,
Right.
to get a better pulse on the housing.
I'm curious, I was on the loan administration board meeting this morning for McCad, and we were approved or offer of a some gap financing for a housing project in Hood River, 32 units in Hood River, but it was the dollars that we had to loan out were had come from the state of Oregon, and it's only in Oregon, of course, because Skamania and us were like, well, where's our share on our side of the river? But it's not, because it's a great project, the 32 units, but it's attainable. They use that term over, which is kind of an Oregon specific term. So it does allow up to 120% of area median income. And so their rents they weren't great, but they were a little, so anything in the project so these 32 units will be like possible, at least
Is
for
it
people.
going on the old,
It's going by
private
Safeway.
park property? Or
No,
is it on
that
private property?
it's on private property. They had bought it in 2016. It's only 0.54 acres, and I was questioning 32 units of, but
Half an acre?
yeah, so it's a half,
0.54?
but yeah, half an acre. They're getting 32 units. Apparently, it's 4 stories tall. They're building in Hood River, because I question that too. But
That's how you get the density in order to make it.
that's
affordable.
that's what we talked about. Where are places that we can have that kind of density? Because yeah, when I calculated that, they're even with all the costs rolled, they're about $228,000 per unit is what the investment is, and that included a pretty healthy contingency, because I know what the project costs, and
How
then
many square foot per unit then?
that's what I did. See, we didn't get the plan, because that's, we're supposed to be looking at the finances, not the, let me pull those.
I don't think our housing needs, staff housing needs are necessarily affordable housing needs.
Right.
They're just someplace where I can put a bed, middle income, something that.
Yeah.
And around here, there just is nothing.
But I'm just curious why Oregon, I think it was some, I don't know if it was coronavirus dollars or what, but that was part of, they had allocated for stuff for housing in Wasco, Hood River, and Sherman counties. And we don't have the same, we don't have anything in Washington equivalent. And so, because it's a good, meaning it's not subsidized, it's not anything, it's market rate. They're
Minus the loan percentage you're paying.
yeah, other than because it's fine, they have private financing.
So this isn't HUD voucher housing?
No, it's regular, and so
Which means they could then increase the rate of the rents after they build it.
they have to keep it for that one thing, I think, and that's why they're doing it, is that because the total project is like 7, so we're like a 10% stake, and but it's only a 5-year with a balloon payment. And I think that's because they're stuck in that up to 120 for 5 years. And then after 5
Then you
years,
can
it can
make the
be
money.
totally market.
Then they can make the money.
And,
That's the
but
only
even
way you can
so,
incentivize it.
but they're, even with that, with their business plan, they're putting their own equity is about it's like 15% of the project, and they have bank financing, and then this gap finance, and we're getting a decent, we're getting 3 3/4 return.
Why can't we do that with all of our money we have invested?
They're really good risk too. But I just thought, 32 units, that would be a significant, that would make a dent in it in one community.
Yeah,
You could park
absolutely.
32 units. There's studios, ones and 2
It would
bedrooms.
fill up immediately.
It would be.
And it would fill up with a bunch of people, and we still wouldn't have a.
I know. Well, we
Well,
need to
it
build
would-
an employee.
Yes and no. I would say you would alleviate some of the pressure on the housing.
You want to be a landlord? Yeah.
Most of the pressure here is not in that market.
When the houses sell in the first 3 days.
Yeah.
Every every one of them, you could build lots of houses.
Yeah.
And they would still sell them every day. Demand.
The demand.
And we're in the twilight zone.
I don't know that that demand is the same in Golden Mill as it is in Rural.
I think the market would be different here as far as the end user.
You
as far
would
as-
cap out because, so many of those users would be, they couldn't use a voucher, wouldn't be interested.
All I know is anybody who wants to work right now can get a
Good
job.
work, right? Which I did see from the labor report that came out that we're, even 5.7, that's not a bad number.
But it could be 3.
It could be
If people
3 if
wanted to
people
work.
wanted it to be. Yeah, there's still, I
Oh, it
forget.
could be less.
I went a super frustrating day. I think it was Thursday after we got done here. And it was like every single business thing I tried to do on the way home, I either was delayed or was on the thing I needed, the service, the whatever. And every single one of them said it was because of staff. That it's like, we just can't.
Yep.
And it was in divergent industries. It's across the board that there is a huge labor shortage right now.
We need upholsterers.
So we need a what?
Upholsterers.
Oh yeah. That was before.
$500 and it's gonna be 3 months.
Yeah. We had ours done, but it was like we had something done and it was like 3 months and I could have probably done it myself with a staple gun and moving on. No, they did a beautiful job,
Well,
but it was,
yeah.
but it was, I don't want to say that, but, okay. Man, I'm drawing a blank. Didn't do anything last week, I guess.
I was gonna say, we had 2 meetings last week,
So
so
we're
there
pretty-
wasn't a
we're
whole
pretty
lot.
caught
There's
up.
a little that in
Yeah.
there, yeah.
One conversation I had was the property going up by Skyline, where the Pronto Plumbing used to be, right on the east side of
Jewett.
Jewett Creek. There's those 3 parcels in there, and I heard from the landowner of that who's interested in building his house in there, and I said, I'm pretty sure that's zoned R3. Why would you put a single family home on R3? Like, we need to put a 45-foot tall building and 32 units in there.
Yeah.
But it's your private property. And he said, well, the city says there's a 200-foot setback from that stream, which makes all that property a lot less, but it's zoned R3, and that's like where we could build apartments is back in there for the city. And so the question would be, what kind of movement could we have in order to potentially push that direction? Because it's come up on a lot of our plans.
But if we push, is he building multiple housing, or is he just gonna build one house closer to the creek?
Well, so he can already like revamp like the shop and the shed and all that in there. But if you want to look at
Yeah, I was looking at them.
it's across from Polier. Yeah, there's 3 of them.
Yeah, those 3 lots. Is it all the same owner?
Technically, it's 4 lots. Yeah, it's all 4 back there. But if you do a map and you go from the center of that creek 200 feet back, you're all the way into it. Practically makes that entire area
Unusable. Useless.
which I have no idea why Jewett Creek above the waterfall would need a 200-foot setback. We only have a 100-foot setback from the White Salmon River.
Yeah.
But for now, and see, City of White Salmon, City of Bingen did update
their
their
shoreline.
update, and did their shoreline.
probably why
That's
right
where it's 200 feet.
But again, though, like even in
And that's why they had no appeals, and
Uh-huh.
it was pretty painless because
they got a comment in appeal and all that on their shorelines
did they?
down on the river. Oh yeah, it was ugly.
Oh, apparently I was unaware. But obviously I was, because I was like, how come they can get through all this with no?
Well, they only had 1,000 feet of shoreline down.
Yeah, how much could you appeal?
Well, but there were still 14 pages of comments on it.
Well, if ecology wants 200 feet and they gave 200 feet, what is there to appeal? What do you think you need 5? Is that what the appeal is?
Well, they probably did appeal on this part of their shoreline, but
I'm just trying to understand why every F stream right, this is just an F stream, it's not on the state shorelines.
Yeah.
Would be a 200
200
foot setback. That's amazing, because anything with water is considered an F stream.
Well, is it possible that the owner is mistaken, or the city staff person that told him that
They
is
have
mistaken?
been, yes, and so I'm gonna try to look into it, but that property right there is one that I've always considered is, and it shows up on multiple of the programs as, kind of like how when we did our buildable lands inventory, areas that are
Right.
best suited for, some sort of development, and that one for housing.
And this is in city limits or?
Yeah, it's within city limits. And I know, so it doesn't directly affect us, but yet the housing situation, anything that's gonna be
helps.
high density, that's gonna provide jobs for county, residents is gonna have to be with potable water and septic, and that's gonna be in city limits. So we do have a little bit of a nexus there. The other thing is I'm hoping to start moving on the mill site in, maybe have a meeting with the community council and Gordy and to start to see what directions they want to go. Hopefully the treasurer will come back with a title report to find out what it's going to cost us, then get that taken out, and then we can start looking at, what kind of doing an RFP for people that want to do something there. Because we have the grant dollars for the stream and the environmental on the stream are going to come in, and I'd like to have us moving at least at the same pace as that planning effort, if not moving ahead of it, to give direction to that planning effort.
I just want it off our tax rolls and off our expense account.
The other thing is if you do an RFP, you might get to choose what the community might have an impact on what happens there. If you just put it up for auction, it could sit there for another 30 years. As a derelict site. So I'd prefer to take it through the RFP, and if nobody wants to do anything with it, then throw it up there. It'd be my preference.
I would agree. He's given the opportunity.
I think that's good enough for my
Okay.
effort right now.
Yep.
Lunch?
All right, well, I will adjourn us for lunch then. We will be back at 1 o'clock. Yes. Thank you. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Let the record show that all three commissioners are present. We will start with our, open with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the business agenda as presented.
I will second the motion.
Okay, a motion and a second on the business agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Don't believe we have any
Have
meetings.
minutes at this time. So that brings us to citizen comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the Board of Commissioners. If you wish to, we do have some folks in chambers as well. And so I'll take the first one in chambers. If you want to talk to the board, you have 7 minutes. You can come on up. If we just need your name and where you're from, you can do it from there as
I
well.
would have them step forward, sir.
Oh,
they
so
can get
folks
the
can
mic.
see you.
Yeah.
That's true in the mic. So
Better
people-
here or there?
Better up
here.
front.
You don't have to sit if you don't want to up here, but the mic is right above your head, and that way all the people on Zoom kind of
can
experience.
hear you.
That's nice. Thank you, giving me the opportunity to say
Of course.
hello and to introduce myself. My name is Ivy Velarde, and I wrote a letter to the commissioners on July the 12th, and with several follow-up communications back and forth. Since that time, I was very pleased that when I wrote my letter via email, I received a response less than 2 hours later. and communicated back and forth for a couple of more days. So I really appreciate the timeliness of the communication that went back and forth. My letter, I would assume all of you received my letter and you know what that was about. Did you receive the updated communications that I wrote after the initial letter and the response from Commissioner Christopher?
I would have to look back at
Yeah.
my, because
Okay.
there's been so many that
Under
they,
Ivy Nelson.
Velarde.
I think it does say Ivy Nelson.
What's that?
I think it does say Ivy Nelson.
Oh, my email, my old email would have said, that's my email is Ivy Nelson, but I'm Ivy Velarde. I took my maiden name back many years ago.
I've only seen the original. I have not seen any of the back and forth.
Okay.
yeah, 'cause
So
normally if you send it to all three of us, if I respond, I don't reply to that,
okay,
because that way we don't have an open public meeting violation. I
right,
put it
and
aside
you were
respond
so
over there.
kind in explaining that to me because I wasn't clear why that happened. So if I have an opportunity, I can read that follow-up email that I wrote to
Sure.
Dan Christopher. And it's on the subject of Stephen Shields' gun range. And you saw my original note to all of you dated July 12th. And did you see the response from Dan Christopher?
No, they did not.
Okay, should I,
That's an open public meeting, so that's why I don't.
okay,
You
should I
can't
read
now.
that?
Yeah, this is an
And
open
then I'll
public
read my
meeting.
response to that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's gonna take probably a little bit more than 7 minutes,
If
but
it's gonna take a while, you can forward it to the BoCC and that can get sent to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't copy them in my email, but you can.
So you
okay.
don't need to,
So
as
you
far as
don't
what
need
you,
to
so if
read
you
it.
want to read your,
Can I read it since I'm here? I took
Yeah.
the time to come. I
okay,
really, because I would like a little feedback also. So you saw the original one from the 12th regarding the gun range and that I have been compelled to write that original letter for 2 years. And I think what tipped me over the edge was the nighttime shooting a couple of weeks ago that was just over the top. So Commissioner Christopher responded to me and said, thank you for your letter. I'm aware of this issue and I'm also aware that a lot of the sheriff's deputies train there and some of them are even instructors. One problem we had was Frank Huey wrote a bad ticket. So I hear that's why this case got thrown out. Also last year, because of COVID, the previous board stopped all code compliance operations. They also rebuilt Title 18 and 19 and removed code enforcement from those titles, but they didn't create a new one for code enforcement. So now court enforcement is now sitting by itself outside county code as this board tries to rebuild it so it actually works and gives it a new title. But in the meantime, when the old board took it out of Title 18, 19, they essentially removed the laws, meaning we really have nothing now we can legally enforce under law. We also don't currently have a code enforcement officer because until we can get this code legally viable, there is nothing we can enforce other than sending them letters that don't work. It's a mess, but that's what's going on. The current board is working on it, but what I'm finding are real quick is that everything in government takes a frustratingly long time to get done. We have been working on this for 6 months when we took office, but we have found out a couple of weeks ago that our efforts wouldn't hold legal muster. So now we have to schedule a time to sit down with the prosecutor and have him give legal guidance as we rewrite it. Thank you for your email, and I hope this explains where this issue is at. So I received that on the 12th. On the 13th at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:26 in the morning, actually, I wrote this letter back to Commissioner Christopher. Thank you very much for your quick response. I appreciate your insight into all of this. Your letter explains why I never got a straight answer from anyone. Law enforcement's involvement with this illegal gun range, a badly written ticket, errors and omission on the rewrite of Title 18 and 19, excluding the key point of why these titles even exist, enforcement, and the snail's pace that is occurring in the process to correct this monumental error. I would think that with an error so egregious in the rewriting of Title 18 and 19 and no way to enforce the codes of this county at this time, that the Board of Commissioners would take every step necessary to make this a priority to correct. It is apparent that as a result of this grave error, people have and will continue to abuse the laws, thus threatening our community. Shields knows he can do whatever he wants on his property, no matter how beyond the scope of code compliance adherence it is, and he won't be held accountable. Is this the kind of community we want to live in? Everyone running amok, unenforceable laws, everyone involved with the gun range is complicit if not adhering to code compliance. The rights of every member of this county are threatened. We elected our Board of Commissioners to oversee the operations and running of this county. We place our trust in your hands that no one is above the law and that our county is a safe place to live and work. That laws will be upheld, that the Constitution be held sacred, and that no one person is allowed to threaten the well-being and property values of others. I understand that change takes time, and rewriting of these titles needs to be done properly and with great wisdom. However, 6 months and nothing has been done, and only now you discover more problems in this mess. Imagine if this becomes public knowledge and everyone realizes that there is no enforceable rules governing our county's codes of compliance. Then I requested a copy of the documents as they were written before and after the rewrite. I expect that these documents are public and available to the citizens of this county. And then I just commented about I didn't see a reply all, and that was explained later. Again, thank you, and I look forward to receiving those documents soon. So I am here to let you know who I am, that I wrote these, and the concern of my family on our property, and that this has been going on. We've built a home on 20 acres out off of Old Mountain Road and can hear the gun range every single weekend. And it used to be that it was every other week that he would have classes. He's doing it every week now. And to give you an example how the sound is so disruptive to one's life, Mother's Day, I thought he'll take the day off on Mother's Day, right? You have family over, you have your children over, you have friends over, and the middle of everything, we're sitting outside, it's warm, it's summer, that's what you do. And the gun range starts.
Sorry.
And it's so disruptive that we couldn't stay outside. It's not, we have other neighbors that shoot guns, and I understand that. This is way beyond that. It's high powered. It sounds like there's a war going on. So
And I'm gonna stop you right now. Please stay here because I do have to open up for other citizens.
Sure.
If we have some time left, then I would like to
I
continue this
appreciate you
conversation.
giving me the 7 minutes, and just to let you know that I'm out there and who I am.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere yet.
No, I won't. You want me to stay here or?
Well, just let's go. I am going, we are in citizen
There's a couple
comment.
hands up. Gabrielle,
Yeah.
and Pat.
Okay.
Gabrielle Gilbert, Pat Arnold.
Okay, I'm gonna start with Ms. Gilbert, if your hand was up, and then I will go in chambers if I don't know if you're a citizen comment or not. But go ahead, please give us your name and what community you're from, and give us your comments.
Disappeared.
Ms. Gilbert?
Hi, sorry, I'm here. Thank you. Gabrielle Gilbert, White Salmon. And the first speaker was excellent, and we fully support her efforts in addressing the range. And I think what is telling on the range story is that you actually built a range that the sheriff's deputies and the sheriffs would do their training, that the taxpayers paid for that original build. So the fact that the sheriff's deputies are involved in this other range, which is suspect, is problematic. The other thing I want to say about the sheriff is the concerns of his language and using lynching in his feelings about your letter and the support that community members have for the elected officials and the county workers, and that his letter and proclamation was a direct threat and intimidation. What I find with the sheriff is he plays his violin songs about woe is me, but the reality is he knows when the Tuesday meetings are because he participates in them. So the idea that he's been blindsided by a First Amendment right to counter this proclamation is in his own words, he needs to man up and address the fact that he's always available to a Tuesday public meeting and to speak what he needs to speak. Just as we are going to dig our heels in and tell the sheriff's department and the sheriff that we don't agree with this proclamation and we don't agree with our county workers, our neighbors, the people that we associate with and the elected officials that we elected to be intimidated. The other thing I want to say is that I'm not going to allow for people to gaslight the idea that this is bringing division into the county. And I'm not going to allow a gaslighting about due process. To illegally arrest someone is going to create a flood of lawsuits that we as county citizens pick up that bill. And this proclamation is just a bridge too far in how he would say to you when he asked this question about what constitution amendments are you going to have me not take care of. It's disingenuous when Chris Ann Hall comes in for these trainings, her own poster lists the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 19th amendments as unnecessary. So maybe the sheriff needs to go talk to Chris Ann Hall about why she has selected constitutional amendments that she would get rid of. This thing about the sheriff is, in a way, you guys sowed your seeds on this one. You guys taking a very hands-off approach as he was accelerating over the years is why you sit in this today. And I think it's time, if the sheriff comes to threaten about us addressing the budget, well, we the people will address the budget accordingly. And if the sheriff's budget needs to be addressed on the trainings and the amount of money that he uses of county dollars for these kinds of anti-government trainings is not okay. And he's gonna have to answer to that. So those are where I'm at on the sheriff. And be clear to the sheriff and to everyone, we too have a constitution in our back pocket, and we are well versed in having this conversation and will continue to have it. If he digs in his heels in his position, we're digging in ours in our position as well. And it's not okay. And we support your letter to tell him that this was not okay. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Okay, we are still in citizen comment. I'm going to go back into the room. Is there any citizens in the room that wish to offer citizen comment? This is your opportunity.
I'm here for the vacate.
Okay, I will go to online then. I believe Miss Arnold had her hand raised. So unmute yourself, *6. There you go.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I really appreciate having these Zoom meetings and that there's a chance to offer comment. It's a little unfortunate that we don't have a chance to really converse, but I appreciate the opportunity at least to speak, being as the meetings are a little hard to get to in person. I first want to say just a couple of things about Sheriff Songer. You open this segment of the meeting with the pledge, which talks about indivisible, a nation indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it's seems obvious that what Sheriff Songer is doing is dividing us. And it's this government, you guys are where we need to come and talk to each other, listen to each other, hear and learn from each other, and build that sense of indivisibility, that we are one, and we need to continue to feel that way as a county, as a state, as a nation, because if we don't, the fragmentation that occurs makes it hard for anything to happen. The previous speaker just spoke about, and Dan Christopher addressed in his email, how complicated it is to get anything done. And and that's true. And that is partly because of all the time that we all kind of spend tearing each other's positions down. So I want to urge you to to take a position that is less involved with which amendment are we going to ditch, or, you know, the exact wording of this or that. And lead with a vision towards building solidarity amongst us and building a county where we all feel safe. I mean, when Sheriff Sanger writes about liberals, well, you know, I'm a liberal, and that's not a comfortable place to be. And no, I didn't vote for him, so I'm not one of his constituents, apparently, in his mind. But he's responsible for my safety just as well as his own political beliefs. And I think it's obvious that for one person to stand up and say, I am the supreme authority is it's nonsensical. And you know, we have a system of laws, we have a Supreme Court, we have the Constitution and all the laws that go with it. It's complicated. And one person can stand up and say, this is what I think, this is how I see it. And then listen to the other person who says, this is how I see it. But nobody can appoint themselves an authority over what the Constitution says. That is the job of a king or a dictator, to say, I am the sole authority here. So there's a place for you guys, even though he doesn't answer to you in the chain of command. And there's probably limited numbers of things you can do in terms of his budget and stuff. There are things that you can do in terms of leadership, and I hope that you will do them. And I hope that you will keep that thought of being indivisible as one of your goals here. So I might stop there and come back next week and talk to you about some of the other issues that are really on my mind in terms of comprehensive land use planning, shorelines management, critical areas, all of these things which are as urgent as anything on our plates and are easily derailed, easily, you know, put aside because of the kind of crisis of the day. But there's really a lot to talk about. And so I think this opportunity to come and speak is very healthy. And I hope that people are actually listening and not just sitting around preparing their response or their reason about, no, that's all wrong. And I hope that you as our commissioners will take seriously your role as community leaders to take into account what's best for everybody, and not this, my rights, your rights, right, wrong, blah, blah, blah. No. We have to work for the common good. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We are still in citizen comment. If there's someone on Zoom.
4901.
4901.
Good afternoon, commissioners. This is Sherry from Houston. And I wanted to kind of talk about also the code compliance and the moratorium that the county has put on code compliance at this time. And I would like to echo whoever was saying that this needs to be looked at. Sorry, my dog's with me. So if I would like to, load up, just a second, please. Load up. Sorry, I had to stop what I was doing today so I could call and talk about this. So anyway, I'd like the commissioners to look into this code compliance and withdraw the moratorium. And my question is, if there is a moratorium, are you going to have a public hearing on it and consider whether the public thinks we need to have a moratorium on the code compliance at this time? And then also, I can leave that question with you because I know that this isn't a time for you to answer, but I do want to also thank you for this time, considering that we don't have a town hall with our commissioners. And that being said, I would like to publicly request that our county commissioners offer a town hall maybe once a month to the citizens, if not quarterly, so we can have conversations with you. So I'd like to publicly request that. And if other citizens agree, let's weigh in together if we'd like time with our county commissioners. in a town hall setting to have conversations. And then also I wanted to talk about the wildfire risk that is happening in the Northwest everywhere, and just put that in front of the county's radar, that this is a serious thing. I know you understand it's happening. And with this said, Undercanvas in their own report says that they will raise our wildfire risk from moderate to high after they develop. And as the county continues to help Undercanvas with its SEPA approval and its CUP to get into place, I want it to be put out into the public notice that this is what Undercanvas will do to us, and the county is fully aware. We have hired experts to prove the fact that this is a very serious situation in our area if Undercanvas is put into place. And then also, I wanted to talk about the solar and findings of fact. I haven't seen findings of fact for rescinding the moratorium. Has the findings of fact been implemented into place yet by our commissioners for rescinding the moratorium for solar ordinances? Can I be heard?
Yes.
Am I being heard?
Yes, you're being heard.
Okay, is there a findings of fact that has been put into place for the rescinding of the moratorium for solar ordinances? Okay, so I guess we're not going to answer that. So I have been hearing talk about potable water. I wasn't quite sure what was being talked about last week. And it sounds to me that the commissioners are talking about allowing properties to haul in potable water. I know that you don't answer questions right now, but I'm wanting to know exactly what this looks like. And also, is this been approved in our county? Did the commissioners approve any sort of ordinances or whatever language you use to allow properties to haul in potable water? Has anything been approved?
That's no.
Okay, and then if not, are you going to have a public hearing on this decision of allowing properties to haul in potable water?
Any change to an ordinance or the adoption of ordinance would require a public process, which would include a public hearing and public input.
Okay, and then how can the citizens stay involved in your hearing process or your process forward with considering the allowing a potable water to be hauled in?
The board's agenda is posted every Thursday afternoon for the coming week.
And public hearings are posted in the paper.
Yeah.
And then that brings me also to public hearings. Thank you. I would like to publicly request that the public notices be posted on the Klickitat County website. I do notice on the Board of Commissioners tab, there's a link for public notices, yet nothing is ever posted in there. And not everybody receives a newspaper. And in today's age of technology where you actually have a link on your webpage, I would like to publicly request that our county put the public notices underneath that link. So every week, citizens have full access and transparency to get what public notices are being put out by our county. Otherwise, it's just being shared with a newspaper. And if people don't get that, then we don't get that information. So I guess I can follow up on that and figure out how I can get our county to put it on our website so it's transparent and everybody knows what public notices are going out there. So, and then also, let me see. So we don't know if we have findings of facts. And and I'd like a town hall. I'm requesting we have town halls. And then with the sheriff, I am hoping that we can all move on. We all agree that the court systems will work out any constitutional issues. And according to the commissioners on their meeting Thursday with the radio, or when you were on the radio, it said you wanted to move on and get back to business. And I, as a citizen, hope we can get back to business, figure out our code compliance. And then also Commissioner Anderson said that the commissioners have been teaching the public about the CUP process, and that apparently we don't understand the process. So I am requesting that the county commissioners lead us to the direction where you are actually teaching us about the CUP process and how can we sign up for some sort of class or something so we can really get a handle on how the CUP process works. Because according to the county in a hearing we had to have for under canvas, the county wasn't even sure how the CUP process was to go and had to have a hearings examiner decide whether the hearings examiner could hear the SEPA and the CUP. So that being said, I think it's in our faces that the CUP process is kind of loose language and that we need to understand exactly how it's used against the citizens to cite projects that the citizens rise up against fully, and that's going to include Knight Road. So I had a lot of things today, and I'd like to know where the commissioners are educating us on your CUP process that you ask us to trust.
Thank you,
as we move forward.
Ms. Bosque, your time has elapsed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn has a hand up.
Did you have a?
I just wanted to clarify that public hearings are posted on the county website. You can also sign up for notifications to receive when those are posted. They automatically go to your email, just like the minutes do or when the agenda is posted. They're always posted on the website.
I would add that we have no moratorium in place. We just don't have a current code for nuisance compliance that we are working on. Commissioner Anderson had a meeting today and we're having another workshop on Thursday. So it is in the works. It may not be moving as fast as everybody would like it, but no, there's no moratorium. We're not trying to do something. So.
Okay, we are still in citizen. Is Lynn's hand raised?
Yes, it is.
Lynn, go ahead.
You got to unmute, Lynn.
There you
Thank
go.
you. I just would like to start by reiterating what Sherry said, and that was I would really like us to get back to normal as well. I feel that the sheriff's concerns about his version of the Constitution is taking up a lot of airtime, and there are much more important issues in our county to talk about, like affordable housing, code compliance, and other issues. But as much as I want to get back to normal, I also don't want to normalize that type of behavior where we're threatening elected officials and saying that it's normal to arrest people and put them through the court and legal process, and that's okay to do, because it's not. And if anyone has ever been there, it's very stressful, cumbersome, and expensive to do. And I don't think that we want to just throw people into jail and call that normal behavior. It's not normal behavior. And so I don't think normalizing that is okay. And I don't agree with it. I wanted to say that I agree with the woman who spoke about the code compliance issue with the firing range. I've heard another neighbor speak about the same issue. It seems to be a very extreme case where someone's running a full-on business with a website and attracting people to come and do firearms trainings, including people in law enforcement, into the wee hours with semi-automatic and automatic weapons firing. That does not seem acceptable in a neighborhood for anyone to have to be exposed to or listen to. And how this is going on baffles the mind. But if you go on the website, you see that there's a lot of connections to the sheriff's department there, and maybe that would explain a few things. The next thing I'd like to comment on is my extreme disappointment with the sheriff's department.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut off public comment. I have a public hearing and a bid opening that was scheduled. Those are hard times. as far as, because they're published times.
We have to start on.
Okay, I'd just like to finish off my sentence saying that I would have liked to have seen a fireworks ban done by the sheriff's department, and I'm disappointed in not having that this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as I said, it's now 1:30 time. We've set aside for public meetings, public hearings, and bid openings. Our first order of business is a bid opening. This is for the Roosevelt Grade Overlay Project CRP 362.
Mr. Chairman, you had her
Oh,
wait
yes.
around.
Sir, Mr.
Maybe a
Chairman,
couple of quick
we have
answers.
40 participants or 47 participants. Did you like to open up public comment at a later time today, since we were giving people
Yeah.
7 minutes?
And I think that is going to, before we go on with the,
We might need to downsize that.
we may need to have, I was hoping that we could have a discussion on the timeline as far as going forward for public comment, just so that more folks have an opportunity. I would say, looking at our schedule, we do have, we have hard things up until 2:20. And so what I would do is I would be open to us having a second public comment period
For people that haven't spoken
that have
yet.
not spoken, that wanted to at 2:20. So that's in about 50 minutes. If my seatmates are amenable.
Yes.
I am.
Okay, so we will do that. Okay,
So we were hoping we could address some of your, but ran out of time.
so
So that's,
At 2:20.
we'll
Yeah.
2:20.
hopefully have a little.
So I would invite you to move back to the audience if you could, please, just because we have the presenters and
Right.
they're not really sure what to do. You messed up their whole system here. Thank you. All right. So as I said, this is a bid opening for the Roosevelt Grade Overlay Project, CRP 362. We will go with that. Looks like we have some bidders.
Okay, we have 3 bids with an engineer's estimate of $2,812,720 for the Roosevelt Grade Overlay Project. Our first bid is from Central Washington Asphalt from Moses Lake.
It's lost.
Oh. That's like,
You doing that again, huh?
yeah. Let's try to. Sheets.
Addendum number 1 is hereby acknowledged. Sheet 3. The bid bond is present. 2. And we have a grand total of $2,888,000 on the note. Second bid is from American Rock Products from Yakima, Washington. Addendum number 1 is acknowledged. The proposed bond is in place, and we have a bid of, I believe it says $2,670,857. Nearly positive that's the 6. And our third bid is from Granite Construction Company. 17, addendum number 1 is authorized. The bond is present. We have a bid of $2,879,879. Those are our bidders, and Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we send this back to Public Works staff for a review of the bids and recommendation.
Second the motion. Okay, I have a motion and a second to return these bids to Public Works for a review and a recommendation. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay. Okay, next up is a public hearing to consider vacation of a portion of J.C. Hoke Road. And public testimony to hear public testimony for or against the proposed vacation. We will start with a brief staff review from Corey, apparently.
Yes. Public Works received a petition from Larry Church and Robert Davidson to vacate a portion of J.C. Hoke Road, which is off of Little Mountain Road, adjacent to the White Salmon River. So in accordance with the RCW 3687040, the county engineer is required to investigate and prepare findings. So the following are my findings. J.C. Hoke Road is a short, unopened county right-of-way. Our records don't show that it's been maintained or used by the county for over 95 years. So there's nothing there but the right-of-way.
Is there an actual road on it?
No, there's nothing there, just trees and shrubs and rocks. So the unused portion of J.C. Hoke Road is approximately 800 feet in length. A small portion will remain and be used by the adjacent property owners. This segment of right-of-way can't provide access to additional parcels as the White Salmon River prevents it from doing so without a bridge to across the river. So this section of right-of-way doesn't serve the general public and provides no current or future connectivity for vehicles or the county residents, and serves no useful purpose for the county road system. For the reasons stated above, it would be in the best interest of the county to vacate this road right-of-way and turn it over to the adjacent property owners for their management and use. Costs associated with the road vacation are limited to the hearing, advertisement, and admin fees associated with the process, which are under $500.
Okay, does that conclude your staff
That
report?
concludes, yes.
All right, thank you. I will now open the public hearing for the purpose of taking public testimony, both for and against. Is there anyone in the room that wishes to speak? Please come forward, sir. Give us your name and your community you're from for the record, please.
My name is Robert Davidson. I live at 120 Little Mountain Road. I'm the majority of the property owner where Hokie Road is. And I totally agree with everything he said there. It hasn't been maintained for over 95 years. It's overgrown with trees and brush. I feel it's to our landowners' advantage to have it under our management so we can go ahead and make it more fire-wise. I've been working on the property already, making it fire-wise above that. This spring, I had a contractor come in. We hauled 7 dump truck loads of dead and down trees and brush and everything off it. And I've consulted with Larry Church, the other property owner. He wants to do the same thing along it. And I think it's the best interest for the county to turn it over to our management. That's all I have to say about that. I do want to thank the Public Works people, working with all of them, Kim Gleason, Nathan, and Gordon here. They helped the process go through really well to get this in public. That's all I really need to say about it. Do you have any questions on it?
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Davis.
Chairman, you do have someone online that wishes to comment.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your comments, sir. Okay, I will now go online if there is someone that wishes to. Ms. Arnold, go ahead.
So speaking on behalf of Friends of the White Salmon, we don't oppose the vacation of the, or what do you call that? I mean, we agree that it makes sense to return the road. It hasn't been used for forever and nobody knows much about it. So, but I would remind the county and Mr. Davidson that there are shorelines regulations there, and that any clearing that is happening and that any building permits or any construction should be according to the critical areas and shorelines management requirements. I've been watching the clearing a little bit and, you know, like from the road. And I just like to remind the commissioners too, that if you approve this, it does not mean that the shorelines and the critical areas ordinances no longer apply there.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Arnold. Does that conclude your comments? You've muted yourself, so I will take that as yes.
That concludes my comment.
Okay, thank you. I will remind us all the issue we have before us today is the vacation of the road. The shorelines issue, although those of course are always in effect, whether it's a road right of way or private lands as well. So, okay, I am still open to public comment on this issue. Anybody in the room? Anybody on Zoom, please raise your hand or get our attention. Not seeing anybody. Oops. Okay, if there is no more comment, I will now close the public hearing to further public comment. This is an opportunity for commissioners now to, if you got any questions of either staff or the commenters, this would be an opportunity. I don't. Nope. Okay. We will move on. Discussion by the board. My cheat sheet says totally optional.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the resolution for the vacation of the portion of J.C. Hope Road in Trout Lake.
I would second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the vacation of that portion of Hoke Road.
Is it Hoke or Hokey?
Hoke. Yeah, well, I guess nobody's alive anymore that
It's
knows.
95 years old, nobody knows.
I call it Hokey.
Hokey, okay, it's now you're.
It's Hoke. It's the same J.C. Hoke as the ditch.
Okay.
Okay, well, now we know.
All right.
Okay.
I know.
Anyway, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. So it is
No longer a road.
no longer a road.
Thank you for getting rid of some of our miles of road.
Yes.
Thanks for not asking us to fix that section of the road after 95 years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And those possibility getting a ditch named after you.
Yeah. The ditch.
You need a ditch named after your own.
So Lee,
Okay. Yes.
Chair Lee allowed us a few minutes to get some clarification. So during last week's budget workshop, Jen identified a delta of 1.5 to 2.3 million. And the direction on the budget build was 3% from actual, so 3% of the 2021. What we're working with the auditors on is we're not clear on is it 3% of their entire budget or 3% of everything below salaries and benefits?
Like clarify entire actual expenses.
Because if you just focus on things, there's not enough things to make up this delta. Potentially. And if it's not, then you issue further direction, which you can, then we'll have to have a second round of budget hearings. If the second round is about things other than things, people. So we're just trying to prepare the letter to send out so we can have folks comply with your directives. And then
I guess I would say I understand that some of the departments can't get 3% without it being people. I'm not looking to remove people. That discussion will be had on, hey, I can't get 3% without removing people. But I think some of them can get 3% without removing people. So I hate to remove that number.
Well, it's not the number, it's just what the 3% applies to.
Right. On some of the smaller departments, it's, yeah.
Sorry.
Some of them have a pretty tight.
And then if I may, the second part of that is, what do we do with step increases? The step increases for 2022 could wipe out the majority of the 3%. So, sorry, Commissioner Anderson, I wanted to pass that out there before.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not looking at expenses, you're looking at 6 or 7% probably, right? If you're not looking at actual wages, total expenses, right? Or even higher than that. Yeah, we have to look at the whole thing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for planning purposes for us, we were looking at 3% of total actual expenses, everything. Understanding, again, I want to clarify that we recognize that there are departments that would be really difficult to do.
Or it would be people, but,
Right.
and like I said, I'm not necessarily saying, I'm kind of on the no people mark for this year, but this is going to give me insight on people for future years possibly. So I don't want to rule it off the table.
And then the COLA, or not the COLA, CPI.
The step increases, are those typically built into the preliminary? I would think.
Yeah, it's factored in the budget.
Because those are already part of the existing policy.
But if you take,
That's part of that's part of that organic growth that we see every year. That's a big chunk of it, is that there are step increases anticipated.
so they can't just focus on the actuals of 2020. They're going to have to calculate the step increase cost and either cut it in addition or at least identify it. Because if they cut 3%, but a big department, their step
They gotta
increases
add
are
their
2%, then in
right.
fact
When we maintained the status quo for last year, was it, let's say your budget is 500,000 and you had your step increases and your budget's still 500,000, or did we say 500,000, add your step increases, now you're at 540?
Right, status quo is same staffing levels with the new step increases, because those are factored in. So that's why status quo is a bigger number than the same. Only in government is the same number actually a larger number. Right.
Kind of like insurance.
It's like insurance flat, right?
And if you
Anything
do,
under
we're already
10%.
calculating that as looking at all the things we're going to be dealing with in terms of step increases and CPI being where it is. We're $500,000 to $750,000, same staff doing the same thing with the same tools again. So I mean,
And I guess I would leave it to my seat base that might have a better idea. That because I want to kind of approach this as a fair and across the board to everybody, bring me your numbers. I fully get it that some departments have, $300,000 and some are 3 million, and some have more numbers underneath their expense lines than others. And I don't know that maybe, if there is a better way to achieve the same outcome, I'm all ears. But
we're also discussing with the auditor's office, how to word this and frame this on your behalf, obviously. I know I'm telling my departments, they got to be sustainable. Don't say I got to cut this and then the county gets sued. We got to make it sustainable. It can't be solve the problem, but there's mandates we're not doing, or there's legal things we're not doing.
Or don't say I'm cutting this knowing that you're going to come back for the first supplemental and add it in. If it has to be, it has to be, but don't,
And again, that's the kind of things you want to find out in the budget discussions, is what are critical and essential and we have to have.
I'm trying to get the directors or electeds to maybe remove things that don't necessarily have to be there, or do a little less shopping on Amazon, or buy something cheaper. Because if they don't help me, I'm going to have to guess with my pencil, and it may not be what they want. So
I think how we're presenting to the departments, and Jen brought this up, is you're giving the departments the first look at it, and what would they do? What are their priorities?
Help me help
based on-
you.
Right, and then bringing it to you. So that's kind of how we're presenting it. It's to the departments. So the entire actual budget. And then step increases, they do those and then that's part of the 3% cut, or some departments, it's a significant amount of money, step increases. They have a lot of employees.
I mean, to me, I think it's disingenuous if we're not already factoring in the step increases. Because those are already built into policy, understanding that, it is going to, because that would be one way. It's like, oh, we need a 3%. Oh, there's no step increases. And oh, there we go. We're problem solved. It's all done. And it's like, that's not going to happen. And we can't we might legally be able to do that, but that is basically a reduction.
It doesn't help with recruitment or retention.
No, exactly. So it's like, no, I think that was always, at least in my mind, baked into that number. And then, so the step increases but that maybe we end up with where it's literally the same number almost.
Oh.
Where we end up,
So it's
we're
truly
coming
status
back.
quo.
It would almost be truly status quo.
Right.
And so does that eliminate the
Because same
whole? No.
Right.
And we
if
know that one
maintain
thing is
strictly status quo, we still need 1.5 to 2.3.
exactly.
That's what not always
So,
do things.
yeah,
Exactly.
if you status quo with step increases, now I need more than
Exactly.
that.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Lee, for letting us.
Too bad. Okay, that brings us to continuing the discussion regarding next steps concerning Klickitat County Child Care Committee needs assessment, feasibility review, and recommendations. I think we have some folks here. And I know Commissioner Christopher has been participating, so we will lean on him to help lead the discussion.
Oh, great.
We got your back.
Go. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yes, I don't know that you were prepared to give us much of a summary, but you know more than I know.
By surprise.
So I was hoping you could introduce yourself to my seatmates, tell them who you are, and then give them kind of the brief, 10,000-foot overview of the findings, and then we'll have some questions answered.
Well, I'm Johanna Rowe, and I was the project coordinator for the Klickitat County Child Care Committee project. And I guess I would start off by asking, initially, what questions came up as you looked through this? And then we'll let Larissa introduce herself.
Yeah, I'm Larissa Levesque. I've been a child care liaison with the Klickitat County Child Care Committee in the current grant work that we've been doing.
Okay, great, welcome.
Thank you. A big part of what I've been doing has been trying to help people who are potentially interested in developing in-home licensed childcare with information and walking through that process.
Recruiting, folks who are interested.
How has that been has it been positive?
Relatively so. I mean, you have, the answers that you expect to get from people, licensing, business model, or does it make sense? Are you going to make money? Things like that. And a lot of people, I think, would like to do it, but are still in our little COVID world that we're trying to come out of. People are still trying to decide, are parents going back to work, some of that stuff. And then financially, what does it look like in undertaking? Because it is a bit of a process. So some people are showing some
person right again.
How about now? I just think
The two things on our survey that I really want to know is of these respondents, I want to know what the household income is.
Thank you. Ken, so, can somebody give me a thumbs up if it sounds like it normally does?
Somebody on Zoom? Somebody on Zoom? You can hear us? I guess if they can't hear us, the question.
Yeah, okay.
How about now?
Up, yay.
Yay, back to it.
So thanks, Anna.
Thank you,
Commissioner
sir.
Christopher, I wouldn't be able to, it's a blind study, I wouldn't be able to identify the 38. We'd have to read.
Right, and
We may
that's,
not get the same.
I didn't realize those two critical numbers, household income and number of people, and so you start looking into state grant funding and the amount of money that state subsidies, you might say, for childcare, and those two things are a factor.
And our 38 employees that responded to that are probably included in the countywide numbers.
Right, as well.
Without even having that, I mean, they're part of the community as well, so. And not all of them from the Goldendale area, so we assume that the statistics in the feasibility study include those folks, or a majority of those folks.
Did you guys, when you guys were looking at finding a, let's call it an operations manager for a childcare facility or our building over here, did you get anybody? I mean, looking at the data, it's just, I don't see how it doesn't have to be subsidized in order to make a profit. So I'm assuming everybody you talk to is like, as a business model, that's just bad.
Yes.
I want to.
You want to,
Yeah.
but
Well, so part of that information is if you look at this feasibility study in the current building, we have to weigh out whether new construction or reusing that building would be more feasible, right? The feasibility study shows that as that's drawn out now would not work for a profit and loss margin. However, even in the scenarios that are listed in here that they show with infant and toddlers or preschoolers, with only 3 classrooms, with the ratios and the square footage that they would demand, you're only using 50% of the building.
Right.
So there's a huge change there, and depending on your age range and your ratios, there is a way to make it work. However, that's where, grant money and asking for remodel changes, things like that, because a small business owner couldn't take on, $1 million remodel change and charge rates that would be affordable. It's going to have to be a community effort.
why did we come up, or where did we come up with these room sizes? Because it's like 1,100 square feet total, and the building's probably 4,000 square feet.
Based on dimensions I have, it's 4,500. It was something that the Public Works engineer, I believe, put together back before I signed up and on. They took like a book of the basic guidelines and then put that together. It was just kind of a rough
And they
idea.
kind of said if we remove this wall, we can make this room this big.
Yeah.
The second floor, Marissa, or that 4,500 square feet is the main floor.
That's just, I took what they put was the square footage of like 75 feet across by 60 feet long, and then I multiplied it. So
I didn't know that either.
I did not, I have been here my whole life, but I did not know there was a second floor.
it's not really usable. It's not a space. It's more storage.
It's only child.
Yeah.
It's a dungeon.
Kids are little.
Yeah, that's where they go when they're not. Never. That's
1,500 square feet of records in there, they're scanning, so.
Yeah, and
Wow.
that was designed before some of the recent changes went in place of sprinkler systems and exit doors and bathrooms and toilets, which are going to be some big things to keep in mind for remodel costs and construction and how that building would need to be fabricated. So you have to have 1 toilet and 1 sink for every 15 bodies in the building. And you have to have access for them per classroom. Non-toilet using children don't count towards that number, but so there's more to it than just kind of looking at a notebook. You would definitely want someone who's got some experience with you walking through as you designed it with an engineer. Our fire marshal recommended that we hire an engineer to look at it just because you've got their codes, the state's codes, so many different factors coming into play with it. A building of that size is absolutely going to require the fire and sprinkler system because of the number of kids that it can hold. So there's a lot of departments there.
And having infants especially, that's right there, an automatic trigger to put in a sprinkler system. When we were looking at funding opportunities, there were, through Jamie, Representative Herrera Butler's office and both Senator Murray, they opened up what they called community project funding. And we applied and submitted some information to them, and they both accepted the proposal that we had put forth, which really was very broad-based in that when I wrote it as either renovation of this existing building or buy and design and build something new. So that's it. It was fairly open and with Representative Herrera Butler, I think it was a $750,000 request for appropriations that I put in. And then by the time Senator Murray's opened up hers, the cost of building had skyrocketed. So we went for 1.2 million and she accepted that. And, that's for fiscal year 2022. So we don't know yet if that's even going to apply, but it's something that could be there if we found that it was necessary or that this was how it was going to work out with this building. We tried to leave many options open for that.
So do we, and I did read the report, was rather depressing, I will say.
It didn't
as far as-
surprise us.
There was no surprises in any of it, but it was, it just, really highlighted the need and also I think the most depressing part was the economic models where it makes it like it's almost a problem that is unsolvable without some intervention, meaning other resources, because it just won't pencil out, especially when we add, I was really intrigued by the percentage of income that folks in different groups are spending currently for that, and then the target of it really should be at 7%,
Right.
and there was nobody that was only paying 7%, and then just the economic model of the different scenarios. It's like I can't make these numbers ever work, and so I don't know how to fix that, and I don't like problems that I at least don't have an idea of some way to fix it.
Well, there is a new schedule now for the.
The Fair Start Act went into effect. Governor Inslee signed that this year and it started July 1st. So that is increasing the state subsidy rates that centers can receive for children. For example, like infants went up almost $7 a month per child for if you're taking state paid reimbursement for children.
Say that number.
A month or
$7 a month or
Yeah,
a day.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's enough.
Per day. I've
I was
got a
like,
monthly.
wow,
and a daily.
$7 a month.
No, sorry, I've got a monthly and a daily.
Wow.
Good thing.
I can
Yeah.
match that.
And they raised, so they're working with parents on their copay, so it's getting closer back down to that 7% of pay versus, because the big problem too was your non-necessarily poverty level families were then not getting any subsidy coverage at all either, making it still too affordable. So that is also changing now as of July 1st with this new act. So that's something that is mentioned in this, but that information wasn't quite out yet at the time this was finalized.
Okay.
And there is a grant that I sent to Lee to have her send to you
I did.
to look at that essentially helps pay for part of this for families under the 200% poverty level. And I went through our budget, kind of did the math, but the hard part there again is you don't know whether our employee who's just under that poverty level, if they're getting child support from now they're over the poverty level, because that gets added into the income factor. So there's definitely more.
I'm sorry, wait, sir.
Go ahead.
I was saying anecdotally, I hear from some of our employees who think or believe, since the county's donating the building, that the county would have, those 38 employees would have priority for but there is no talk of guaranteed bed, so to speak, because it takes such a wide net to make it work and the number of people. So
that brings up my next point, actually. Looking at the STEM study, with the way they have the building now, is 22 infants and toddlers, or up to 31 preschoolers, 8 infants, 20 preschoolers. Reality, you're looking 30. Looking at our study, we need 5 infants, 11 toddlers, 21 preschoolers, 8, 10 to 12-year-olds, and 14, 11 plus, for a total of around 64. Right. So even if we're just our employees, that building's only half the size unless there's floor plan changes.
And we're kind of unique, like the hospital. If you look at the study, is we have employees that work
two 12-hour shifts. We have 24-hour operations in some of our bigger public safety departments. And that's really critical to finding that swing shift daycare. So if a facility is, 12 hours a day or, 10-hour day, it's going to eliminate some of those folks who work swing shifts.
Right, and they're in this
And the hospital
survey,
will be
you
the
can
same, I
see them
think.
in there as well. I would like, I think you guys are doing a great job. Keep moving forward.
We hope the state agrees as well.
Huh?
We hope the state agrees as well.
Right, and I would say, I hope we find an avenue for someone to take on this project, because I honestly just do not believe the government should be in charge of childcare on a county level. But I also think, because we have very technical, higher paid staff that we're looking to hire that we just can't hire because there's no housing and no childcare. I hope, and I'm going to make a recommendation to the board, and I hope this doesn't offend you guys at all. Again, keep doing what you're doing, but I would like to see us form another committee of just county operations. Some of these people could be on it if they want to. And to look at what it would take feasibility wise for us to do a childcare that starts out with just county employees, that if it works, we can then expand to the rest of the community. But I think we really need to get in front of this, and if it takes multiple different groups looking at options, it doesn't hurt to look. Okay.
Well, you'd be welcome to use this information. That would put you well ahead of having to go and revisit this stuff.
Okay, I do have a hand raised online. This is
Hannah.
yes, Miss Hannah, go ahead. Did you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, I just had a couple of things that I just wanted to encourage, everyone to that receiving this grant and the opportunity to collect this data. As you all know, like the data will only be very relevant for a short period of time. And so, we want to glean as much information, get as much good use out of this data as possible. So if you haven't had the opportunity yet, and that, I'm looking on Zoom, so I'm seeing all these names as well. If there's anybody who is interested in reviewing the complete STEM community needs assessment, we do call out Goldendale specifically in several instances, but it is county-wide data as well. And, like it's been mentioned, it's a huge cumbersome problem, and it really, really hits home when you're looking at this data. This data could be useful for anybody who's interested in seeking grant funding. And we just want to make sure that we get it into the hands of as many people as we can. We know that In Situ did their own childcare feasibility study a few years ago. I am currently a member of the steering committee for the Mid-Columbia Economic Development Council and their strategic plan. And childcare is something that's coming up routinely. And so I just think that, I learned a lot about the makeup of Klickitat County, and particularly the demographics of under the age of 6 by reading this report. And so if you're interested, I would be happy to drop my email address in the chat and make sure that we get a copy of that to you. But I think that there's some just, really, really valuable data that outlines just how dire that situation is. And of particular concern to me is also that during the pandemic, we saw females who often, are the predominant care provider leaving the workplace at just alarming rates, and they are not yet returning. And knowing that we also have this childcare crisis, it just compounds that issue even more. And so, it's hard to know when you're looking at a problem that's so complex and is so overwhelming, and there doesn't seem to be, obvious solutions or answers. It's hard to know what to do, but I think by getting a grasp of exactly what the situation is, and as there's opportunities to support different grants or form additional ad hoc committees, I'm definitely in favor of any and all efforts, and I think that our collective committee would want to help and to support that. So thank you for reviewing this survey. And if you're interested in looking further at the needs assessment and the feasibility review, I would be happy to make sure, as I know any of our committee members would, to make sure that you get a copy to review.
It was included in your packet, so it is available already online.
Yeah. We have it posted as well, both WAGAP and the Gorge Early Learning Coalition.
But
website.
it's good if there are, because as
Yeah.
Hannah said, there's a lot of folks
Yeah.
on this.
Right there on the chat, so she throws the link on there. That can be great.
And to your point, Commissioner Christopher, when you said that it takes, you know, a lot of different parties, a lot of different entities working together to get this problem solved. And that's so true. It's our schools, it's our county, it's our business sector, it's our faith groups,
And
just
that's,
everybody.
to me,
you know.
even if the hospital came up with a plan for their employees, that's gonna take some of the pressure off of what's out there existing. So every little piece helps. And if somebody can come up with something for their group, maybe a different group can mold from that and build their own. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know that we're interested in a county of taking this on. You know, we just had conversations where we have to come up with 1.5 to $2.3 million. We do have some new funding coming eventually. North of, if I look far enough out the window, right about the same time that building's coming available. That hasn't been earmarked for anything yet, so.
Well, there was some early discussion about having to repay the road fund for that building because of the way it's funded. What was,
It's only by the road department, by the
yeah,
public.
was there a cost ever associated with that would?
It would be, as far as it belongs to the
Right.
road fund, and so the road fund, those are dedicated dollars that cannot be used for anything else. And so if that asset is transferred where it's not being used for road fund purposes, the road fund has to be made whole. As far as that would have to be I mean, we'd have to kind of figure out what that was that would satisfy the auditors, you know.
The negative number is.
Yeah, it could potentially, I mean, because there's general purpose dollars that have flowed into the road fund. And so there could be some offsets there, so. Or future offsets or different.
Sounds
things.
messy.
Yeah, well, no, the whole thing is
Well,
that
it could be
those are
accounting.
absolutely dedicated dollars, and we can't take, in essence, road resources and use them for childcare.
So yeah, it's not a free building.
No, I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that
Right.
at all.
So if we used it, we may have to buy it from the road fund. Let's just call it that.
Right.
Right,
And that's-
so it's us buying it from ourselves,
Right.
just different color of money.
Yeah, Hannah, over there, back up.
Oh, okay. Hannah, go ahead, or is your hand still raised?
No, it's new, and I'll keep this one brief. But one thing that I would ask, if we really look to our commissioners when it comes to that building. We put particular focus and emphasis on Goldendale this last year because of the belief that that building may very well be in play. And so our last grant funding that allowed us to bring on Larissa and Johanna actually expired June 30th. And so we'll be looking for more sources of funding. And if there gets to be a point where the commissioners have made a decision that that building is no longer in play, that would be good for us to know that, so that we don't put, we're a county-wide organization and group, and so we have made Goldendale a priority, and one of those reasons had been because of that building. And so if that building isn't in play, please do inform us or let us know, so that we're the grants that we're writing don't include further efforts around that particular building. And if that's still in play, then great, we'll still go after grants that may be helpful. But if they're not, please do let us know that.
I mean, I could definitely say the building will be in play in that it is going to be surplus when the new county services building is, we're going to start moving in November. It will be surplus to uses, and so it will be empty-ish at some point.
Right.
Although my understanding is there's a couple folks that may need to be forcibly removed.
Glued to their chairs.
Yes.
I wonder if they're listening right
If they're
now.
listening, I don't know. You know who you are. But we expect 100% movement to the new building. So it's definitely, it will be surplus to the county's needs.
Well, if you've got a committee and you've
But
seen
yeah,
that.
with that, I don't want to just surplus it off for anything.
Oh, no.
I think this plan is a great plan. If one of us, two of us, 12 of us, whatever group can figure it out to make something happen, And I would like to hold it open for that option.
Yeah.
Until we realize that option ain't gonna work, which hopefully.
So is there anything else through this study that kind of piqued your interest or got,
It kind of, to me, it answered all the questions, and there's some
yeah, I think they did a great job.
good numbers in there. When it literally broke down, and I don't know who did it, it broke down the average cost of childcare, the cost of teachers.
Yeah.
For you, I mean, that really cracked down. And like I said, if you guys so choose to, go with me and make another little committee so we can look at it on the side, they've already done a lot of the work.
Right. And I think it needs to be timely, because as Hannah said, this data is only relevant.
Right, it's a snapshot.
It's a snapshot right now. And so I know, I can confidently say the problem's not going to get better on its own. It's only going to get worse if it's anything. I mean, and it's those issues of housing affordability, housing stock, childcare availability. Are those kind of key issues that it's not just, it's across the sector where we really, we are having trouble multiple times a year where we cannot get staff because they can't find housing, there's no childcare. People come, they want the job. We offer very competitive salaries, and then they're like, well, yeah, but I have no place to live and I have no place to have my children go.
And it's hard for us because somebody is gonna have to move here, where the majority of thing is, I hate to say it, but illegal in-home care. And they have to now go to work for the county.
We're calling that informal, or what did they call it?
Family, friends, and neighbors.
There it was. That's what it was.
Anyway, not so politically correct is what you'll find out of me. But they have to come here and start a new job, and they just met this provider 2 days ago that's not licensed by the state, and I have to leave my child there?
Oh, yeah.
No, I'll
patch it
go to work
together.
over here. And so
A
that's.
lot. I think that's where that
killing us. And
number,
as we get
your other number.
that retirement age coming up in the next 5 to 7 years, we're gonna have problems. if we don't
Always
do
astounds
problems.
me, and we've had a few business, public, private will say, well, we don't have a need for childcare. You will.
Yeah, you will.
I mean,
And if we have to look into drawing the blueprint from them, I mean, part of that blueprint's already been done. I think we need to run with it and grab some inquiring minds that add a lot of knowledge.
And I would really encourage to get the business sector heavily involved, because I don't think they always put together
Well,
that this
and
affects their bottom
I
line.
hate to say it, half of them are probably online. I guarantee you some of those bigger entities of business sector in our county would love to do this, but they're like, let's let the county pay for it. We're just gonna sit over here and let the county pay for it. And it's not gonna fly. I mean, 1.5 to 2.3 million dollars. So
Okay, well, thank you for coming in. Anything I can encourage you to go start a business?
Go
How
for it
can we
then.
help you?
she will gladly do it with a little bit of our encouragement.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer where there's a will, there's a way, and
Yeah.
it's something our economy, and there's just no aspect of children, family, or business that doesn't need it. So that's where it's
It's
really
gonna
calling
come
on.
down to somebody's gonna have to subsidize it
Yes.
with either state money, county money,
Or all of
private
it.
entity money. And that's kind of where I was saying the other entities are kind of going.
As I understand it, Mike Salmon, the licensed childcare facility was started because a business owner said, we need to invest in this, and they put the money in to get it up and running.
Was it for their employees or was it for the whole community? Because I know like the hospital in the Dalles has done it. I mean, they've done it for their employees.
No, it was, I think, a contractor's owner.
Okay.
And then, put the money into it to get it up and going, because they saw the need. But again, it's still not a large one, but it's one.
Right.
We are
Thank
still
you.
around, so if you
All
have any
right.
questions, let us
Continue
know.
All right.
on.
Thank
We're-
you.
I'm gonna continue
Good.
participating.
That's great.
Uh,
Are we meeting tomorrow?
It said I
He
got
said it
called
was.
out to the landfill, so I'm gonna try to be
Okay,
back
I
for
think
that, so.
We should, that's what you're. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Ready for public comment?
Yes.
Are we dropping down 5 minutes?
Yeah. Well, it kind of depends.
Please have a discussion whether what you
Yeah,
guys.
whether what I think we're
Your agenda will reflect that
next week. That's right. Okay, well, Commissioner Anderson is out of the room. We're gonna get set back up. Yeah, we're just gonna recess for just a second. I know I said 2:20. We're running a couple of minutes behind, which is always the issue with our, but we are gonna take public comment here in about 2 minutes. So if any of you have stuck on or,
While we're still on this topic, before we go back to citizen comment, I would like to, I will be bringing up, before we go back to citizen comment, to see if you guys are willing to move forward with my recommendation of forming our own committee to look at the possibilities of a county operated or county employees childcare facility.
I'm not, I mean, to me, it's just, it's.
We're in recess, so we can't talk about it.
Oh.
And maybe since we're talking about it, if the board does approve that, or a majority of the board approves that, Commissioner, maybe you and I could sit down and brainstorm
with help
who should be on there, and so we don't create two committees of the same size with the same people.
Right. Well, because they're both gonna have the same interests, but different interests. So. If my seatmates so move.
Okay, well, I will reconvene us now, and we are going to begin with our second public comment period, and I will start with me. But Commissioner Anderson wasn't even in the room.
I know, that's why I'm gonna say it again.
All right, no, just wait. We're already 3 minutes past our time. So I am opening again for public comment. I'm going to start with folks that have not already had an opportunity to speak to the board at the public comment first section.
How much time did you give per comment?
Well, we have not actually, I mean, we published the 7 minutes, and so we will have a discussion on lowering that. After this.
For future meetings?
For future meetings, yeah. So is there anybody online that wishes to make public comment to the board? Raise your hand. Unmute yourself, *6. I'm not seeing anybody. I will not. And so then I'm going to go to former or people that were cut off. And you may come forward if you want to continue. We can give you another 7 minutes. Okay, before you start, 7211, did you wish to make public comment?
Greg Wagner, Goldendale, C, citizens educated about solar energy. I'd like to know, why is it that the commissioners are so unwilling to talk with the members of CEAS and the citizens of Klickitat County about this solar issue? You take our comments, but you never have had a discussion with us. You've never had a town hall meeting. You've never done anything to discuss the concerns of the citizens. We had a moratorium, and then you quickly rescinded it based on no facts. You show no interest in talking to the citizens. Why is that?
For clarification, sir, I've had a lot of discussions with citizens, so.
Not as a group of 3 commissioners all together at one time.
That would violate open public meeting laws.
You can have a meeting anytime. You just all 3 have to be together, don't you?
Yeah.
You could have a monthly town hall meeting where the citizens can come, ask their questions, and get answers from the 3 commissioners that are here to represent the citizens. Why are you not willing to have a monthly town hall meeting? You want to have transparency, that would be a great way to do it. If you want to be concerned about the citizens who you're elected to represent, that would be a great way to do it.
We can get some answers.
You spend a lot of time, the county workers spend a lot of time talking to the solar companies to help them get their projects approved, but you won't talk to the citizens. Why is that? All you have to do is have a town hall meeting scheduled once a month, post it in the paper, and have the three commissioners show up and let the citizens talk to you and give them answers. That it would be openness, honesty, transparency, accountability, everything you say you are willing to do but never do it. And again, all you do is listen. You never do anything. Never answer any questions, anything from the citizens, unless it's somebody's barking dog, then you'll talk to them. But when it's about solar and the problems that it's going to create, you will not talk to the citizens about it.
I would disagree with that. I would say when we're being attacked, we don't.
As a group, all three commissioners have never sat down and had an open conversation with members of CEAS or the citizens of Klickitat County about the solar pandemic. You've never sat down as three commissioners together and talked to the citizens. You can disagree all you want. You may have talked to people individually, that's true. But you've never sat down as a group of three commissioners who claim they care about the citizens and the county and had an open conversation and discussion with the citizens. You've never done it. Transparency, you said you were all in favor of transparency, all the commissioners, yet you do nothing to be transparent. You don't want to be open and honest and talk to the citizens. You just want to let solar happen. You don't want to create ordinances, even though all three of you agreed that there, at one time or another, individually, that we need ordinances for solar. Now all of a sudden, we're going to have guidelines that are unenforceable. Dan Christopher wrote up ordinances. Mr. Souter on November 24, 2020 said the EOZ had nothing to do with solar. He was on the committee. It was primarily written for wind. Yes, we do need ordinances. He said that. Commissioner Anderson said the EOZ is not robust enough for solar. He even agreed we need ordinances months ago. Now all of a sudden, the EOZ has everything we need for solar. The EOZ has not been updated, so how can it have anything in there about solar? This is just wrong. You guys keep saying you look out after the citizens, but you don't. You only care about big business, and that's big solar business. You're not looking out after the people that you are supposed to represent. You're supposed to be leaders. You're supposed to care about what happens in the county, not tell the citizens, well, that's private business between a landowner and the solar company. That's beyond that. This is a major impact on our county. This is not a guy putting up a little barn between the guy and the builder. This is a major impact to many citizens in our county. You refuse to talk to any of the citizens in the county as a collective group of three commissioners. I ask you to sit down, have open discussion with the citizens that you represent. Why can't you commit to doing that? Honesty, transparency, and accountability. Why is that not in our county? Why doesn't the county have a code of ethics to follow? We don't have a code of conduct for the county people to follow. Yep. All we do is get to comment. You guys will never answer anybody's questions as a group. And that's not the way you should be behaving. You should be open and honest and talk to all the citizens at one time. I believe you're afraid to sit in front of the citizens and listen to them and have to answer the questions that they have on their mind. Be it solar, be it the under canvas project, anything, the conditional use process that we're told that Commissioner Anderson is educating everybody on. I'd like to know when that class is held. I'd like to attend it so I can learn from him all his vast knowledge about the conditional use process. When will that happen? Is that on the county website, all that information about how the conditional use process is handled? The step-by-step part of that process? Where is it? It doesn't exist. There's a flow chart, some boxes. It doesn't tell you anything. When will we all learn about this conditional use process that Mr. Anderson knows so much about? I'd like to see you guys step up, be real men, have town hall meetings, stand in front of your constituents and answer their questions instead of just saying, thank you, Mr. Wagner, thank you, Mrs. Vasquez, or who's ever on the committee on the comment period. Yep. Just sit there quietly. Don't say nothing. That's what you're good at. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. I assume that concludes your comments. I will take an opportunity to respond in that anybody that has followed citizen comment for the past, I don't know, year or so, or going back multiple years, excuse me.
Your time is up, sir.
Yeah, no, I'm the chair, so
Your ball.
There was a long history of citizen comment for the last, since I have been here and prior, where there was an opportunity for interaction between the citizens and the Board of Commissioners. That's only stopped recently, and it is due to really, I would say, personal attacks, terrible behavior. We have the board, previous boards, this board has always been open to having conversations with our citizens until it became absolutely unproductive. And I will say again, as I did at lunch, I was raised with, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And so I have chosen, an interaction during citizen comment is at the discretion of the board. It is not a requirement. It is not an ethical requirement. And sometimes the best approach is to not have an interaction. And if the board chooses, or individual members choose to interact with a member of the public during citizen comment, that is their choice and their right. And so I would ask you to look back through your behavior, Mr. Wagner, and see how much of the current interaction or lack of interaction with the Board of Commissioners is a result of your actions. And I will leave it at that. We are still in citizen comment period. I will actually recognize Commissioner Christopher.
I would agree with that statement. I have sat in this room for years before I got elected to this job. Granted, I was the only person in this room and there was no Zoom at the time, but there was always interaction with the board. I think it comes down to how the board is treated. If they are treated with dignity and respect, we are more than happy to have open dialogue. If we are faced with attacks and innuendos in misstatements that we're constantly having to correct, it just becomes a time that we don't want anything to do with that. So look back on what could possibly change in the future, and you might get open dialogue like we're going to be having here real shortly.
Excuse me, we are still in citizen comment. If there is, I will still give an opportunity for anybody that has not commented yet.
I would say before we double.
Okay, we will go
over there.
No, we're not doubling up, but go ahead.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes you for 7 minutes.
Thank you. Again, my name is Ivy Velarde, and I'm a citizen of Klickitat County. And I wanted to come today to get a better understanding from all of you on the whole issue of ordinances, compliance, and CUPs. And I don't understand how a business such as the gun range could go forward and exist now over 2 years without the CUP, without the conditional use permit process, the hearing process for the citizens that live within that hearing range. And so just a better understanding of the ordinances. Now, Commissioner Christopher, you did mention that there's some rewrite going on, and maybe that's part of it.
That's essentially where we're at, is we're rewriting that code so that we can make a new title. Plans, I have plans anyway, we haven't discussed that part of it, is once we get that done, I want to look at the fee schedule or the fining schedule, what we would fine for, which we would need conversations with the prosecutor to get that code compliance where it's actually functional and it actually works. My seatmate was in a meeting this morning, which again, because of open public, or because of the law, I was not in, so I don't know what happened. We're going to have a workshop on Thursday to discuss this, of which I'm sure then I will get informed of that, and will be a big round table discussion to see where we go from here. It's kind of where we are.
So I understand that there's kind of it sounds like you're in a place of flux at this point in making some of this rewriting. However, still a CUP, if I were to want to put an amusement park on my property, I would have to go through a CUP, especially if it becomes a business and I'm charging fees for people to come in and take advantage of that. How does one get by the CUP and be allowed to have a gun range and a business as a gun range?
They're not allowed.
Right. And I would say from the requirement to go through a CUP process for whatever, something that is not a use allowed outright is not suspended. That is and was in effect. The issue that we're having the problem with is the compliance piece of it. If we are processing multiple CUPs, on a monthly basis. It's not that it's not going on. It's like if someone chooses to be non-compliant and they don't do what they're supposed to do, we right at this time don't really have a mechanism we have no enforcement arm at the moment. And so normally like a CUP, that's a planning issue where it is a planning violation if you are doing something that is not allowed through your planning. Typically then that would be handled by the code department and it would be a compliance issue. But right now we have no compliance officer. We have, and I want to be sure I correct the record, is we had a pause. We still had ordinances in effect, actually, I believe until March of this year. So we weren't, because of COVID last year, we didn't have a person to enforce them, but we did have them on the books. When we updated the title that they were in, they were pulled out and put, because we understood we needed to update them and clean them up because they weren't working the way they were, because we had such a terrible backlog of compliance issues, and we didn't have any teeth. We didn't have any teeth because even though there might be something on the books, we didn't really have the ability to enforce things or weren't enforcing things because we were so overloaded with stuff that the board wants to look at that and update those. So this is definitely something we have to do. What happens though is right now, anything that's out there, we have no one to send out there to say, yeah, you're out of, you should have gotten a CUP. We don't, and so until we actually adopt those, we're pretty limited. It's like we have no code to enforce.
So
right
how long has this situation been in existence? Has it been over 2 years without the?
You got to shut down for COVID for the most part.
That was last year.
Right, that was last year. Prior to that,
first part of this year.
Yeah, in the first part of this year.
When he set this gun range up, it was before last year. We're on to year 2.
There was problems before COVID.
Yeah, there was problems for COVID. I don't know off the top of my head if there was like a file had been started, a official complaint had been registered that would have started the investigation process. I don't know.
I'm aware that there were some citizens in the community who signed a petition over 2 years ago.
Okay.
And so that should be on record somewhere. Okay. So I know that the complaints had happened before.
Commissioner Anderson.
So I just want to, I know it hurts that we're sitting up here saying we want to help you, but there's nothing we can do right now. Trust me, it behooves me. That's why I had a meeting yesterday, had one this morning. We're having one tomorrow. Code compliance is very high on our list of priorities to get through. We have had multiple meetings with the department heads. We have had multiple rewrites of the code compliance section. Once we rewrite it, it has to go to the prosecuting attorney's office, and we have great ideas, and then they say, no, all your great ideas are illegal for this reason, this reason, and this reason. And so then we have to go back to the drawing board. It is a process, and we are working directly with the prosecuting attorney's office. We will be likely, hopefully, making major changes to give some teeth, to give some direction, and then we have to go through the process of the public process to implement those ordinances, and then we have to hire somebody, And right now we can't hire, well, we're trying to hire people for 20-something. You can look at the number of jobs that we're having, but we're not getting applicants. And so until that happens, well, you were jumping.
Well, it's really loud.
And then we have to hire somebody willing to go out to certain people's houses and take on that threat level, so.
And so 2 years ago, when this started, for what we do with code compliance, it's always, we try to create voluntary compliance. We try to get people to follow the rules. We're a complaint-driven county. Once we get the complaint, we begin working with them, and that is a process to try to get somebody to do it. And for example, on a situation like this, it's a conditional use permit application. A conditional use permit application can take months just to get all the paperwork done to fill out. And so if somebody says we're working through the process, we're going to be filling out our permit application, we as a county, we're usually very accommodating. Okay, we will help guide you. We'll help you through the process. It can be very difficult. You've got your Environmental Policy Act you have to work with. You have the actual filling out of the conditional use permit. Then you have public hearings. Then you have appeals. The entire process can take multiple years.
And when you have somebody who's not compliant, because you're not, my understanding would be from what I read on this brochure, is that you apply for conditional use permits before you hang your shingle out.
You're
so to speak.
supposed to do that.
And if someone has already moved forward and is just not complying.
Right, and our processes are set up to assume, right. And when we get, and that people will make a good faith effort to be compliant, and I will say from history, the biggest issue we have in all code compliance is that our systems are set up with that in mind. As he had said, we try to work with people, we want things to work out, and most of the time they do. Most people they act in good faith. Our systems are not set up when somebody doesn't, so that we have to actually force them to do something. It's like, well, yeah, you need to get a conditional use permit, and they're like, okay, yeah. Then they never fill out an application, they never do it. Well, where are you at? Well, I'm working on it. Well, and it's hard, and we could, you get to the point where, okay, you're not making a good faith effort, and so then we would take steps to actually stop that, because you're actually not permitted to that activity while you're in the process. Because if you had done it the way you're supposed to, you wouldn't be doing the thing until you got your permission to do it, because there would be mitigation, or it could be that the answer is no, you can't do it. Conditional use permits are not at their, they can, sometimes the answer is no, you can't do it.
And I'd like to go on the record that I'm not against Mr. Shields having a gun range.
Sure.
I'm against him having a gun range in a residential area. The county built that gun range out by Dallasport for the specific purpose of having the opportunity to go out there and have
And for the
training.
record, the county went through a conditional use permit process before we started construction.
So he has an opportunity. It's not like, no, you can't do this business, just you can't do it here without the process going forward. During these last couple of years, it probably is on the record, and I did ask him, I said, is this going on the record? Then I would call the sheriff's department. I said, I'm reporting that, it's a Saturday, it's a Sunday, and there's all this high-powered weaponry going on. And I did get visited once by Deputy Bianchi, who was wonderful and very polite and sympathetic. And I also spoke with Deputy Langley. And of course, I've had conversations with the planning department. And I said, maybe if I'm a reasonable person, maybe if I go talk to Mr. Shields directly, he's a neighbor. And I was told, bad idea, don't do that. And what that told me, what I took away from that, is that was not a safe thing for me to do. And so I'm always asked, do you feel unsafe with this gun range in your neighborhood? And now I must say, I do feel unsafe. And I feel like I'm putting myself out here. Word is going to get back that this Ivy Velarde is stepping forward. So I wanted to go on the record that I don't feel safe. And when you have 35 guns going off just down the way, it's very disturbing. And then when you know that, you know, we're training law enforcement, are they going to be on your side, you know, when you're making a complaint like this? So I am not against Mr. Shields having this business. It's just not the place to have it in a neighborhood where there's so many people that are being affected by it. And it affects our land value. If I turned around right now and put my property on the market, somebody came out on a Saturday to view my property, and there's this very loud artillery going on, you can bet your bottom dollar they go, oh my goodness, what's that? And walk out the door with never an opportunity to sell my home.
So I don't like to end conversations that don't have a path forward or something that you can do for yourself. We will get through this code compliance. We will hire somebody for code compliance. They will come in and review this. The best thing that you can do is prepare for that. And what I would advise you to do is to buy a dB, a decibel meter, and take regular recordings and record it on your phone when it's going off. And then you can show when it comes time for the investigation and when it comes time for any conditional use permit application, you can show that at this time during Saturday, this is how loud it is on my property at my house, this distance away, and I have this many other properties around it. You can also say they're doing live fire night trainings and it is 1 a.m. in the morning and it's 100 dBs, which is, you know, past what the noise ordinance would be. It's worse than a barking dog. So that would be, you know, you just have to think about what can I do for when it comes in front of a conditional use permit process, in front of a public hearing, that you can put forward information that helps your claim to create some sort of relief for you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I
Open
really,
dialogue's kind of nice, isn't it?
very nice.
And thank you for being so respectful.
Thank you for being civil and respectful.
Oh,
And
always.
Okay, I'm going to
always.
give one last opportunity for citizen comment. Okay, hearing none. That concludes our.
Am I able to talk in? No, okay.
Well, no, I gave somebody else an opportunity. You can have the last word, Ms. Busquet.
Well, that's not what I'm looking for, commissioners. I am just looking to say that I would agree with town hall meetings with our commissioners so we can have discussions. I really appreciated the women's discussion just a minute ago. That was very respectful. And I feel she got a lot of information, and I feel that citizens of Klickitat County can conduct ourselves in a way that would be beneficial to both our county and our citizens. And I am also wanting just to request town hall so we can have these discussions. And if they turn out that they aren't respectful, then we handle it from there. But I believe that the citizens of Klickitat County can handle ourselves respectful, like the woman that you just spoke to. So please consider having town halls. I know that you feel intimidated with some of the discussions recently, but I assure you, the people of Klickitat County are very respectful, and I believe I've been respectful. We would just like answers. We would just like to be involved with our government and our land planning and situations that you're seeing going on in the county right now. So please, I ask that you conduct town hall meetings where you can have conversations with your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Busquet. Okay, we are now closed for further citizen comment. We will continue on with our agenda. We do have we have some bills to pay. The prosecutor, though, do we want to? I want to be respectful of your time because we are way past your time.
Can we go ahead and move forward? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rebecca's here. I just wanted to fill you in on a couple things. First, I just want to make sure that the record is.
Good afternoon. Good to see you.
Make sure that the record is complete. There has been attempts to enforce violations of the lack of the conditional use permit. We did have the code compliance officer at the time worked in close conjunction with us in the issuance of an infraction. I had signed Deputy Cranston to handle that infraction, to prosecute that in the East District Court. There's quite a bit of time spent on that preparing. When we got to court, it turned out that the code compliance officer had just picked a date at random and issued a citation, which was a deliberate misrepresentation of fact to the court. The infractions have to be observed by the officer issuing the infraction. He did not do that. He admitted that, and he admitted on questioning just picking a date at random. At that point, we made a determination that we were not going to defend his work in court and risk our licenses based on his lack of credibility in making that misrepresentation to the court. Shortly thereafter is when the COVID struck and the courts closed and there was prolonged delays. Since then, there have been moratoriums in effect without our support for almost a year now. That prevents any prosecution of an infraction or any other action at this time. I also want to remind folks that there is a private cause of action that's available through a private nuisance statute. That individual citizens do have the opportunity to directly sue this establishment if it's leading to a deterioration of the enjoyment and value of your own property through a private cause of action for a private nuisance. That is available. I understand that it's not the simplest task and probably would involve retention of an attorney, but there are mechanisms available under our current state of law with the courts have reopened to pursue that. We acknowledge that this particular issue has been ongoing. It had showed some improvement for a short time. I had made direct contact with Mr. Shields on more than one occasion, and those effects apparently have failed miserably at this point. That the resurgence of the complaints, talking with some of the neighbors, it's an ongoing issue that we'd like to take further actions. So just wanted to make sure that it's not that nothing's been done. It's just that the officer misrepresented to the court the date on the citation. At that point, we draw a line, and we don't defend work that shoddy.
I would imagine that would affect credibility on future cases as well for that.
If we have a reputation for having a habit of defending that bad shoddy work. So we voiced concerns to his superior, we voiced concerns to the different stakeholders at the time about the credibility of that individual, and we stand by those statements. So if I could shortly address the virtues of a conditional use permit process, this has been characterized by some constituents as a de facto evil process of allowing something that shouldn't be allowed. I am also on the board of directors for the Washington Gorge Action Program, that is the supervising entity of the Programs for Peaceful Living, which is the organization that has been instrumental with the immense great assistance of Gina Musbrucker from our local legislature, securing funding for the opening of a women's domestic violence shelter, our first one in the county, we're one of the only counties that didn't have one. We obtained that property in Goldendale, made the purchase, but in order to move forward with the opening of the women's shelter, we had to obtain a conditional use permit for the city of Goldendale. So there are plenty of beneficial uses to allow the property to be used that might on its face be inconsistent with the application, the strict application of zoning laws. I just want to remind people of that. It's not always bad. We want to have a women's shelter here in Goldendale, but for the granting of the conditional use permit by the city of Goldendale. So please take that in consideration, that the steadfast opposition to CUPs, we want to have a domestic violence shelter. So those kind of things. Want to give a quick update on the under canvas. Ms. Cranston did represent the county's interest in that, in maintaining our interpretation of the challenge to the authority of the hearings examiner. The attorney for the appellant thought he knew better than everyone else, frankly, on how to interpret our own codes. The hearing examiner was quite dismissive and denying that challenge, the motion to disqualify, however you want to characterize it. So the under canvas.
So just so we're clear,
right.
The county always knew and asserted that the hearing, that we had the authority to appoint a hearings examiner.
Yeah, I think it was.
There was no controversy over that.
Well, this was an attempt the afternoon before the previously scheduled, months after any deadlines. It was very frustrating. The hearing examiner allowed the delay. And so the county's not taking my office is not taking a position on the merits of the project or the issuance of mitigated determination on significance, but were instrumental in moving forward and working with the planning department and the responsible official in making that determination, Mochi Lynn led in coordinating all this. So that is proceeding at this point on July 29th, wherever the result may be.
So does that mean what you're saying is that the hearing on Wednesday or whatever it was?
It's Thursday.
The one that would just occur.
Correct.
He ruled since then after it, and he said that he can hear both the SEPA appeal as well as the CUP itself.
That's correct. That's
Rule
correct.
on both.
So it'll be, again, back to a 2-day formal proceeding starting on the 29th. But do you recall the time?
I believe it's 9 a.m.
9 a.m. And we'll continue until dawn. So
Continue until
dawn.
Oh, I think you said till dark. I was like,
that may be
well,
the case.
Yeah.
For those inquiring about the fees for that hearings examiner, there's a payroll in here for $5,520 so far for that hearings examiner. So when you're questioning what the fees are,
and then just last minute on the update on the appeal filed with the regarding the payment of fees from the noxious weed department.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Cranston's eloquent and nasty letter to the AG was effective, and they've agreed to waive those fees. So that dispute has now been resolved.
Oh.
So,
Better ask for Richard.
Any other good news? You're on the roll.
well, I figured you never get good news from me. So
Yeah.
So we say the county $1,400.
Take our wins.
Every little.
We've got another project for you.
So I don't have anything for executive unless you folks do, and I'll stick around. Otherwise, I'll take any questions.
do we need to do an executive to make a determination on track B, or are we waiting?
If you wish to do that today, I can stick around.
Doesn't matter to me if we do it this week, next week. I just know he needs an answer, so.
Yeah.
Why don't you have the conversation with her out in the hall you were thinking about doing, and we can.
We'll pay the
I was
bills.
just conveying the information to her. Okay, I'll be right back. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Consent?
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we accept the consent agenda with all 11 items.
Second motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $1,970,876.44 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $0 ending July 19th, 2021.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to pay the bills. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Okay, and we got all the pay estimates.
I'll start, I guess. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve pay estimate number 15 to Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company in the amount of $1,158,759.09, which excludes retainage in the amount of $51,703.20 and includes $86,906.93 for tax. The payment amount is $1,193,962.82 for the county services building project contract number C03120.
I will second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for pay estimate number 15 to Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve pay estimate number 3 to Lead Contractors LLC in the amount of $45,452.25, excluding $2,272.61 in retainage, including $3,408.92 in sales tax. $46,588.56 is due to the contractor for the Klickitat County Courthouse Entrance Improvement Project, number C06821.
I will second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion, a second, to approve pay estimate number 3 to Lee Contractors LLC. This is for the courthouse entrance improvement project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
I'll do one more.
And then we're gonna hand it off.
I'm gonna need to take a drink.
Yes, yeah, it's a big day.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve pay estimate number 1 final to Frank Dury Incorporated in the amount of $29,662.50 for 2021 guardrail repair project.
I will second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This is for pay estimate number 1 final. So one and only. This is for the guardrail repair project to Frank Gurney Incorporated. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve pay estimate number 2 to Stripe Right Inc. in the amount of $263,452, excluding $13,172.66 in retainage. $250,279.40 is due to the contractor for the 2021 annual striping program.
I would second the motion. What was that cough for me?
Yeah.
I was swallowing.
I have a motion and a second for pay estimate number 2 to Stripe Right. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve pay estimate number 1 to Great Works LLC in the amount of $294,186, excluding $14,709.30 in retainage. $279,476.70 is due to the contractor for the Old Mountain Road project.
I would second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for pay estimate number 1 to Great Works. This is on the Old Mountain Road project. Is there any discussion on that one? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes, and we have,
Lee, do you have that board pending for the airport?
oh, yeah.
Well, I'll give you my copy because I had emailed it to you. The paper to sign is in the sign folder.
Okay. I just need to make the motion.
Okay. Transfer of entitlements.
Yeah, and I would just say for the we actually were the recipient of one of these before, where somebody else had some money left over that they were running out of time.
Did we just couldn't find anything to spend it on kind of thing?
Well, we just ran, yeah. No, not anything. There's very specific guidelines of what you can spend.
Well, you know what I mean.
Sure, we got childcare, we got $1.5 million.
Ability to spend the fund.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the transfer for the airport entitlements in the amount of $10,056 in unused funding back to the FAA.
I would second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to release our interest in that entitlement. Hopefully somebody else, they've already found a place to put it. Somebody else can use it. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. That's good.
Thank you very much. You're very welcome.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, Mr. Prosecutor. We have an executive session to discuss pending litigation. Actually, before we start, Mr. Rob, did you need anything from me? Okay, thank you. All right. How long do we need to discuss this? Understanding that if we're going to, just for folks on Zoom, if we're going to take action, we have to do that in open session at the conclusion. 10 minutes.
Can we 5 for that matter?
5. I think we've had lengthy.
We kind of know. We just kind of need to.
I'm just going to start with 5 minutes, and we'll go from there.
We good at extending?
Yeah, we're good at. We know how to extend. So we will now go into executive session in accordance with RCW 42.30.110 (1) This is for pending litigation, and we're going to start with 5 minutes, understanding that when we come out, we may take some action.
We do need people to please exit.